Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. Hope you had a great weekend. Another hot summer day here in Salt Lake City. My wish for you is that you get out into the sunshine, maybe throw a little water on it as well, sprinklers, water balloons. Maybe you have a chance to get out to a river or a lake or a paddleboarding situation today. I know it's tough on a Monday, but fingers crossed that we can all find the time to enjoy this beautiful summer we've got going on. Another very interesting weekend in the world of sports. College football season marching closer and closer and closer. Camp begins on August 3rd. That is 2 weeks from today. Players will report on the 2nd. Everyone in the building. Lockers handed out. Again, I don't know that that's how it works anymore. I think they just get to keep their lockers all year round because it's a full-time job these days. But in any case, it's actually kind of funny because it's not even all that common for your best recruits to show up on August 3rd anymore. Most of them enrolled in January. Like the guys that you're really, really early enrollment is now the norm for the top recruits in a class. But there will be some freshmen getting their feet wet on August 3rd. There will be several players that are making their final start to a camp. And this time it'll be a lot different because it's Morgan Scalley running the show. We'll have an opportunity to catch up with Morgan, with his coordinators. We've got to figure out when we're going to start Devin Dampier edition with Dev on the program. But football season is very much right around the corner here, and we are thrilled about it. It has been a friendly summer if you're a sports talk radio guy. I'll say that because you had now a professional hockey team here in the market that was playing into the early summer. You had World Cup action to occupy us. You had, of course, the Utah Jazz holding on to a high draft lottery pick, number 2 overall, that made Summer League a little bit more interesting. So the dog days of summer, James, have not yet reached us in the sports world. We've always had something to talk about.
Yeah, there was maybe, and you're right about this as I say this, we had something to talk about at least, but there was probably the first week or so of June that was whatever, but we still had NBA playoffs. We had NBA finals going on. We had the Jazz anticipating a number 2 pick. Who are they going to pick conversation. Then the World Cup gave us like more awesome games to react to. It feels like the dog days are finally here, though, OC, because we got baseball, and RSL's back in action this week. The Talons are Utah Talons, the Athletes Unlimited Softball League. They're
playing
in the
for a
championship
Yeah.
later this week. Going to talk with the other Coach Bear, Cindy Ball Malone, the head coach of the Talons, later today. So you got that going on, but not much else. So these next 2 weeks are going to be – this is where we have to stretch a little bit, OC. I believe in us.
This is where I actually have to be halfway decent at coming up with content for the job.
By the way –
these 2 weeks, which I have – by the way, I want to thank everyone and also ask forgiveness while I'm thanking. The nice thing for us here, because ESPN 700 is really great and a wonderful home for me to do this show, instead of being like, oh, no, our guy's going to be gone to do national television broadcasts, right? You guys have embraced it and helped promote it, and it's wonderful. Thankfully, the schedule lays out in a mostly friendly way relative to the PFL and Utah football season. We've got an event again this week, an event again next week, then a brief break, then back August 22nd, and then we're kind of mostly done for the year. There's maybe going to be something in September. There's maybe going to be something in October or November, but it's not going to be 2 events every fall month like we did the first year. So I'm actually really pretty thrilled about that. I know that it doesn't matter all that much to everyone listening, but for me, it's a big deal because I get to stay dialed in on Utah football, don't have to split my attention and my preparation and all that stuff.
To watch any games, it's maybe 2 games you're going to have to watch on a plane home.
You know how annoying it was to have to like come back, catch the YouTube, because I'm obviously watching the whole Utah football game no matter what. But I try to watch as much Big 12. I try to watch every single BYU game. I try to watch a lot of Utah State games. And I'm watching the national games as well. And it got really annoying when you're on an airplane catching the 1 hour recaps of those. So we're going to finish out the summer strong. Football camp will be going on at the University of Utah. But you know how that is. You don't get a ton of hardcore answers most of the time on that. And then by the time football season rolls around, September 3rd, opening night at Rice-Eccles Stadium, Thursday night. For the most part, the workload in the PFL will be done. Now, there might be something Arkansas week I just found out about. But if there is, I'm not going to have to miss the game itself. So I will see all of you at Rice-Eccles Stadium. In any case, we are pumped on this summer.
Real quick, speaking of Utah Fall Camp, we got a new nickname for it here on ESPN 700 because
not Camp Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle's not here anymore.
That was very much a Bill Riley thing, by the way.
Yeah.
He coined the term Camp Kyle.
We're going with Camp Scally.
Okay. Can we go Camp Scallywag? Would that be cool for everyone?
Sure.
I don't know. I'm going to workshop it. I don't think it works.
But I'm saying that officially it's Camp Scally because that's going to be on all the promos and all the marketing. So we can do other nicknames, but the official nickname here at ESPN 700 will be Camp Scally.
I suppose as a collective fan base, 877-353-0700, when it comes down to the one-word identification of your coach, Kyle Whittingham became Whit.
Yeah.
Naturally, right? When you were talking about it and you were doing the shorthand,
it was Whit.
You
Coach
were saying Whit.
Maybe.
Now, Camp Kyle is independent of that, but Whit. We would say Whit or we would say Coach Whit. If you wanted to reference the head coach at the University of Utah in one syllable, you would say Whit.
Yeah, and
right?
Camp Kyle was just the alliteration. That was why I'm sure why Bill went with that.
With Morgan, we haven't fully decided it yet, right? Most people it's still new enough that I think we're going to just call him Morgan.
Yeah. Morg.
I think we're just going to say Morgan, kind of like BYU fans used to say Bronco, kind of like going all the way back. It used to just be Lavelle. Utah,
it's Kalani now down there.
Yeah, now it's Kalani. Utah, it was Coach Mack.
Yeah.
You never just said Ron. You never said McBride. You would say Coach Mack. Urban was Urban. Whit was Whit. And now Morgan, I think, is going to be Morgan, 877-353-0700. Are you going to call him Scally? Are you going to call him Morgan? We're going to get to a situation where we call him Scal? I don't know. I think it's just going to be Morgan. I think that's, if we're workshopping, I think that's where it's probably going to net out. But we don't know, right?
And Scal, like scowl or scowl.
And here's the thing. You've achieved a certain level of status in the fame and sports world when you have the singular moniker, when you've just become identified by the one thing. Now, it's funny because he's on my television right now. We're going to talk about him later during the Daily Dump. But, Tom Brady was never Tom and he was never Brady. He was always Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning was never Peyton or Manning. He was Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Eli was kind of just Eli at some point.
Yeah, Eli got the one name.
Mahomes, you can just say Mahomes, right? Russell Wilson at some point was Russ.
Josh Allen's, outside of the Peterson household anyway, he's Josh Allen.
He's
Joshy.
He's Joshy where you're at. So there's Josh Allen, right? Football might be the outlier here.
Yeah.
Devin Dampier, I think we get to Dev in most cases.
Yeah, he's Dev.
I think we call him Dev. I think Bird Ficklin is Bird in most cases.
Yeah.
Bear Bachmeyer, geez.
He's just Bear.
It's just going to be Bear at some point.
Which, by the way, are there enough Bears? Is there enough room for all these Bears in the market here? Provo, Salt Lake, Ogden
I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on that. But in any case, that singular moniker in sport, it becomes a really important thing. So what is it going to be? I think it's going to be Morgan.
Yeah.
But we'll let it develop.
I could see Scal, now that you bring that up. I could see that being
That's interesting. I can't see that happening at all.
Yeah. He's not see, I joke the pun comes out, of course, as I'm wont to do. I come up with a pun for it. He's not the kind of guy that's going to give you angry faces very much. So it's not otherwise scowl and scowl would be a fun little play on that, but
we will see how much angry face we get out of him. But
we'll see.
In any case, we've got camp coming up 2 weeks from today. It's going to be fun. We'll decide what we call all these people as their reputations progress. This past weekend, you had a pretty jam-packed sports slate, honestly. The British Open was going on. Very interesting and fascinating British Open. We're going to talk about that in about 20 minutes with Paul Pugmire. He's hopping on to discuss the controversy of Bryson DeChambeau. And, I love a good bad boy story. I like when there's a villain. Bryson DeChambeau feels like he might be leaning into that role just a little too much on the PGA.
He certainly is the golf villain right now. Yeah.
And, of course, you had a World Cup final and a World Cup third-place game over the weekend, which was funny because I was in Austin, Texas, but we have several Brits working for the PFL now. We had a few British fighters on the card this weekend, and talking World Cup with them, there's a genuine level of heartbreak. There was the consolation prize of beating France in a wild and woolly game for third place, but there's like a genuine level of heartbreak that I think all of us sort of like intellectually understand, but don't have a real emotional understanding of when it comes to, we were all bummed out to see Team USA exit the tournament the way that they did, but none of us really ever believed it was going to be USA hoisting the trophy at the end of the World Cup. Every British person I talked to, and sample size is like 6, so take with it what you will, all of them were genuinely bummed out because they really believed it was coming home. And that's just something like that. That is the really emotion of sports. They played well. They didn't play well enough against Argentina. Some people think they did play well enough against Argentina, but didn't get the calls that went their way. But Spain this weekend, Spain yesterday, in what ended up being a really interesting final, Spain just dominated. I mean, Leo Messi is probably the greatest of all time. Again, this is the tax of having a World Cup on North American soil. You get guys like me who are not soccer heads talking soccer too much, right? But it's kind of like Caitlin Clark makes all of us talk a little WNBA. It's like Conor McGregor makes everyone talk a little bit about MMA. It's like Mike Tyson makes people pop in and start talking about boxing. But we all watch this very closely, and the magic that Leo Messi is and was able to create all throughout this tournament in the World Cup is, for someone like me who doesn't understand soccer talent, doesn't understand soccer tactics, like it's a little bit hard to articulate and explain, and Spain just didn't let it happen. Spain was just like, yeah, we know you have the best player in the world over there. We know that guy, when the ball is at his feet, does things that all of us just kind of shrug and throw our hands up and say, what the bleep was that? And Spain just refused to let it happen. 32% of possession in ultimately a 120-minute game belonged to Argentina. The rest was Spain playing keep away, Spain on the attack, Spain stopping Argentina from developing anything, Spain stopping Argentina from getting the ball to Messi over and over and over again. The stat that was insane at the end of regulation was that Argentina had 0 shots. Not 0 shots on frame, 0 shots on goal. They had 0 shots in the game. And this is one of those things that will make a lot of people, a lot of soccer haters, hate soccer even more. So you're telling me that a world championship game, because it is exactly that, is the World Cup final, a world championship game, one of the best 2 teams on the planet, isn't able to create any offense at all? I mean, the other sport analogy here, this is complete one-way traffic. This is a perfect game being thrown by the opposing pitcher. This is one of those wild, like, Power 4 versus FCS matchups where you've got some poor team from the SWAC taking on an SEC powerhouse, and you look at the final stat sheet, and it's just like Georgia today was able to rack up 600 yards. Not even that, because Spain didn't have a ton of offensive success themselves. But you look at the defensive statistics, and it's just like the total yardage for whatever Southeast Missouri State is -4 rushing yards and 14 passing yards. It was just a smothering, a blanking of epic proportions that allowed Spain to win 1-0 and claim their second World Cup, a world championship. And, of course, as the Fox broadcast did really well throughout the entire tournament, you got to see, it was about, midnight, 1 a.m. in Spain, the reaction of the goal, the reaction of, which happened in extra time, of course, the reaction of the second half of extra time, I should say. And just the emotion of a nation full of hardcore soccer fans. It's a religion over there. And I wish we had some equivalent of this in American football. Of course, we don't, because nobody else plays American football and cares about American football like we do. We got some small analog when it came to the Olympic gold medal in hockey, right? That's something that we can all kind of get on board with, and we were all pulling for Team USA, and your patriotic heart and your patriotic mind demanded that you get that win against Canada, and it was that much sweeter because it was against Canada. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know enough about soccer to tell you why they were able to do that to Argentina, why Spain was able to be so dominant, especially defensively, against Argentina. I'm not even going to pretend that I can tell you the difference between that World Cup final and all of the other previous World Cup finals in terms of quality of play, quality of officiating, whether or not the game was as visually appealing. All I know is I was sitting there watching it. I was having a great time. Spain had chance after chance after chance, and ultimately their attack finally got one in, and they're the world champs. You zoom out and you say, well, was this a successful World Cup for the United States of America, for Mexico, for Canada? I think undoubtedly so. I think that, as we have talked about throughout the several weeks of this thing, I think it was much needed positive PR for the culture of the United States, for the people of the United States, for the United States as a country. I think that the Flo Balogun red card, not a red card situation, certainly eroded a little bit of that goodwill mid-tournament. But then, even if you don't view this as an American, I think I'm speaking from like the world perspective. I think that there was a feeling of at least justice was done ultimately, that the U.S. was not able to advance after that. I think that's where a lot of soccer fans netted out on it, even though, the American opinion should be, in my thinking, the American opinion should be that, Flo Balogun didn't deserve the red card in the first place, so wiping it out. Two things can be true. He should have been allowed to play. The red card never should have happened, so that wipeout probably was the right thing, but the process by which it happened maybe felt a little bit icky, and we talked about that plenty. But I don't think that isolated incident ended up, doing enough to ultimately hurt the reputation of, or the goodwill reputation-wise that American sport and American fans had built up throughout this tournament. I think that ultimately it was a really, really good thing. So at the end of the day, massive success, and what a joy it was. What fun it was to have that to cover throughout the summer. And I told you, I made my confession, like, I'm going to watch soccer. I'm going to stay on board this train that I finally at age 42 hopped on, after I think the last time I hopped off the train was probably when my team, my 6-year-old soccer team, the Pink Panthers, didn't advance into the postseason. I don't even know if we advanced to the postseason. Let's be honest, we don't remember what happened when we were 6. I think that was the last time I really was dialed on soccer. So Fun to be back in it. Fun to have a club, a squad. I got to find a European team, I suppose. RSL for now. All right. But applause and congratulations to everyone who's involved in this World Cup. I really think that the U.S. did a great job hosting. I think that Fox did a great job on the coverage. I think the only American who probably came out looking worse was maybe Alexi Lawless. He seems to have eroded, if he had popularity and goodwill coming into this thing. I think some of that went away. But beyond that, it was a blast. And that's what these are supposed to be. That's what sports are supposed to provide us, right? Connection points, entertainment points. And it was a spectacular World Cup. More goals than ever. The record for individual goals scored, Kylian Mbappe scores 10 goals to get the Golden Boot in this thing. 10 goals in 7 games? It's ridiculous. That kid is going to probably, before it's all said and done, have achieved kind of an unattainable, like a Cal Ripken level, you can't touch this, because if he's halfway through potentially his World Cup play, right? He'll play when he's 30. He'll play when he's 34. He'll probably play again when he's 38, because he's 26 right now, if I'm not mistaken. So if he's got 3 more World Cups to play in, I'm not going to assume he scores 10 goals in all of those, but let's say he scores at least 5 in those, then he will have nearly doubled the previous record going into this one. He'll have nearly doubled the previous record of goals scored in a World Cup. Bananas. So Kylian Mbappe killed it. Leo Messi killed it. Really all the stars in this tournament. And again, I think FIFA is one of those organizations that they're kind of like the NCAA. They're impossible to root for. You look at FIFA and you see the corruption, and you see the weird manipulation of politics, and the weird manipulation of even sponsorship rules, and it's hard to root for FIFA.
It's impossible to root for FIFA.
You can't really root for FIFA, but I can't imagine that this World Cup could have gone better for FIFA. I can't, at the end of the day, you had all these you expanded the format, and there were people who were like, oh, this is a bad idea. And then you got all these incredible, wonderful stories, these Cinderellas with the expanded format, the Cape Verdes and some of those types of things, and even maybe Team USA's run in a North American World Cup and Mexico's run in a North American World Cup were helped along by an expanded format, right? So a couple of your host nations probably benefited. Teams like that Cape Verde that sort of grabbed the attention of the international soccer community, all of that, those storylines building you up. But then what did you get at the end? Like we always talk about in NCAA basketball. You can make this thing 150 teams, but what people really want at the end is they want Kansas, North Carolina, Duke, and maybe we'll allow for a Houston or an Arizona or someone who's not an all-the-way dyed-in-the-wool blue blood. FIFA got the top 4 ranked teams in the world in the Final Four. So for them, it was cool, we got everyone feeling like they were involved. We got the entire world with all these great storylines. We got some social media stars. We got America, wrapping its arms around the soccer community, and hopefully that will at least if during the World Cup we had 200 million American soccer fans because we were all prisoners of the moment, I bet that when it's all said and done, there's 30 million who were not soccer fans before who now are because of this.
Including yourself.
Including myself.
Yeah.
I will lead the charge of that 30 million person army.
Yeah, you're the president of the new American soccer fan.
And if you are the soccer gatekeeper who doesn't want me on board, then I'm just going to push on past. I don't care.
We're our own. You're just gonna say we're our own American soccer fan club, and you're not invited.
We're an independent body.
Yeah.
We are not FIFA. All right, we are not. But
we're not the gatekeeping soccer fan. We're something else.
Ultimately, how could it have gone better? Honestly, how could it have?
Yeah.
Even with the result of Spain winning, because there was some of that some people who are like, Argentina is being done all these favors and Argentina is being pushed along and pushed along and pushed along. Argentina ultimately did not win it. If they had, some of those people would have been dissatisfied, and that narrative might have persisted for a tiny vocal fan base that was just like, oh, this is what FIFA wanted, and they got exactly what they wanted, and the corruption fed this one so Messi could get back-to-back World Cups and whatever else. Ultimately, the quality of soccer came out on top. Messi got to touch the ball for like 90 seconds in the World Cup final.
Yeah, Spain was incredible defensively throughout the tournament and, educated people like me and you on why they were most people's pick to win the World Cup at the beginning of the tournament. They only allowed one goal, OC. That's right. In 7 games.
The Golden Glove, the best goalkeeper of the tournament, was undoubtedly.
He was incredible. Only allowing one goal or scoring a record number of goals. One player doing that, Mbappe, scoring 10 goals for the double-digit goals for the first time in World Cup history for a player. I mean, I think Spain only allowing one goal is more impressive. It's not as flashy because we like offense more than defense, especially in this country, right? And it's a whole team effort. It's not one guy leading the charge versus one guy scoring 10 goals. But you talk about records that may never be broken. I don't think we're going to have a team. We're probably never going to have a team that never allows a goal in World Cup history. I don't think this one even gets matched where you only allow one. That seemed impossible in my mind before this.
And here we are with Spain now celebrating a World Cup championship, and they're a relatively young team. So Spain, you know who hosts the next World Cup?
Yeah, they're one of the host nations.
It's
right?
the Iberian Peninsula, basically. It's Spain, Portugal,
Morocco. Yeah.
So that one, by the way, James, we're going to have to work it into the budget. Maybe if we got 4 years to prepare for this. If we put aside like $10 a month in the budget between now and then, we'll have $480 because that's how that math works out.
We will have
maybe more than $10 a month.
We will have part of a plane ticket.
So maybe more than $10 per month to save for our World Cup adventure to Spain, Portugal, Morocco. 4 years is actually not that long.
It really is.
When you're talking about saving on a monthly basis.
I'll say this too. I hear what you're saying about FIFA's got to be happy with how this World Cup went. The only thing that I personally, one of the takeaways I have personally about, we know that FIFA is going to try to co-opt all of the goodwill that American fans and all the other fans around the world, all those great moments we had about, people coming to America maybe for the first time and going, oh, this place is way better than I realized it was. All of the Brazilian fans embracing the Japanese fans after they got eliminated by Brazil, and there's the Japanese fan just crying because really sad about that, right? And the Brazilian fans putting their arms around him. So many other great social media goodwill moments. FIFA is going to try to say, yeah, see, that's what we do. I just want to say, FIFA, that had nothing to do with you. That was good people from around the world being good people. You had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, you effectively did zero to facilitate that and actually worked actively against it by price gouging, setting prices for, quote, the American market and making a lot of these games completely inaccessible to people that are like more of the common folk. I don't know if you saw the social media kind of man on the street stuff where there were several outlets, several people, several accounts walking around at the final as people are going into MetLife Stadium and saying like, hey, how much did you pay for your ticket? And a lot of people don't want to answer the question, but some people were just like, yeah, I paid 20 grand. I paid 50 grand. And then they would ask them, what do you do for work? And it was all like content creators, business owners, or family money. You didn't get a whole lot of like, I'm a mechanic. I'm a nurse at a hospital. It was like, you can't be there for that. And I get it. A World Cup final is not, you don't have a right to go to the World Cup final, right? It's a privilege thing. It's like a Super Bowl ticket. But I have a problem with how expensive Super Bowl tickets are. So your point is well made. FIFA should not get any credit for the kumbaya stuff that was happening around the FIFA World Cup.
Don't fall for them trying to take credit for it, I guess is the point of that.
Also,
that was you guys being good people.
The president of FIFA, Gianni Infantino, I don't think he's quite as bad as Sepp Blatter, as far as we know, but we'll see. He was, because I can't give the guy credit, and I don't want to give someone in his position too much credit. He was wearing, when they came down for the trophy presentation, he was trying to do the cool guy thing where he was wearing white tennis shoes with his navy suit. But it's very clear that his stylist or whoever made that decision for him has never paired tennis shoes with a suit, because your pants have to be cut a little bit differently. Tennis shoes typically are bulkier at the top where your pant cuff comes down. Tennis shoes are typically a little bit higher up on your ankle. And so if you're not wearing the right cut of pant when you do that, James, here's what happens. You get a bunch of bundling and bunching down at the bottom, and you look stupid. Your pants look dumb. It looks like you're a man who makes multi-millions a year and is wearing probably a $10,000 plus suit that doesn't fit well because of your stupid white sneakers. So don't do that anymore, Gianni Infantino, all right? I'm not all that impressed that you speak French, German, Italian, Arabic, English, Portuguese, and Spanish. Did you know about that, by the way?
I did not know he spoke all those languages.
He was born in Switzerland. His parents are Italian. And so, obviously, in Switzerland, they speak German. He spoke Italian at home. He learned French in school and has since also become conversational in Arabic, English, Portuguese, and Spanish.
Yeah, if you grow up in Switzerland, I think you kind of grow up speaking 3 or 4 languages, because it's partially a lot of Italian influence, partially a lot of German influence, partially a lot of French influence, and then if you know German, you can learn English fairly easily. So, yeah, he had the advantage of because of where he's from and his family ancestry, being able to probably speak 4 languages almost right away.
But you got a terrible sense of style when it comes to shoes with your suits, bud.
I'm not impressed.
You don't get credit. Boom, roasted. All right, we got to take a break. Paul Pugmire is going to join us on the other side to talk British Open. It was a burnt-out course. It was wild and woolly. Bryson DeChambeau's taking 2-stroke penalties and threatening to quit over it. An eventful weekend, and we'll discuss it with Paul Pugmire next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in Paul Pugmire, president of First Tee Utah, host of Utah Golf Radio right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM on Saturday mornings. Friend of the program and golf expert. Hi, Paul Pugmire. Welcome. How are you?
Sean, I'm good, man. Hey, I want to be friend of the program. I like that. Thank you.
Yes, bona fide, dyed in the wool, going many years back, friend of the program here, and a guy I rely on very heavily when it comes to golf. As you know, not exactly my sport. So I'm in Texas this weekend calling fights. You got World Cup final, and still the Open, the British Open, the Open Championship is making a lot of noise, even on the front page of things. You got a little controversy with Bryson DeChambeau. You got a wild final round, ultimately Ryan Fox winning this thing. I want to get to that here in a second, but can we talk about the two-stroke penalty and the tantrum from Bryson DeChambeau? I was very eager to get your thoughts as soon as I saw it happening a couple days ago.
Yeah, wow. What a series of events that unfolded. First of all, let's be really clear, straight up. In terms of a referee judgment, in terms of a rules official making a decision, this one was simple. This one was so easy. It was an infraction. It was a penalty. I like Bryson DeChambeau, and it would have taken me about 4 seconds to give him a penalty, because he stepped in back of the ball and pushed down the grass and improved the conditions of his shot. We've all known since we were kids, you can't do that. And he knows that. Who knows what was possessing his mind? I don't think he's a guy who's trying to cheat and get away with things, but I would have given him a penalty in a flash. He was absolutely improving the conditions of his shot.
And he obviously... Well, it seemed like he disagreed, and he was arguing aggressively, and he threatened to, a vague threat to maybe not continue play over it and things like that. And I think that's where maybe some of the other players were like, all right, come on, man. Some guys abstained from making comments. Some guys did make comment about it. So you just said you do like Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah.
It feels like he's not real popular on tour after this incident.
This incident is going to take him a little bit to recover from, because it starts to affect the personal lives of the other competitors. The way this works is, obviously, you don't know what the pairings are, so you don't know your tee time until after everybody has completed play. Well, they didn't have Bryson DeChambeau's his score, therefore where he would be on the tee sheet for the next day, until later than normal, because he was contesting this penalty. So was he finishing T2 or was he finishing T5? And therefore, who would he play with? What would his tee time be? What that meant was that the R&A could not send out the tee times in a text system that they have, that all the players rely on, and they're used to getting their texts telling them when they play the next day and who they're paired with in a certain time window. And it just happens like clockwork, week in, week out. And this time it didn't, because Bryson was throwing sand in the gears. And so these guys, some of them went ahead and went to bed, not knowing what their tee times were the next day. So you start screwing with people's plans and with people running their lives. Yeah, there's going to be some bad feelings.
How difficult is it from a gameplay perspective after you have not only a two-stroke penalty, but then an argument over it, and then, maybe like a little tantrum, if you want to call it that, and
Sure.
a controversial kind of exit? How hard is it to just get back to playing good golf after something like that? I mean, I'm sure it's different for every player, but the two-stroke penalty is already costly enough. It feels like no one's done any favors by the aftermath.
Yeah, there's no winners out of this, that's for sure. You ask a really good question, and I think you've already answered it. It's a little different for each player, how well they can bounce back from this, how well they can compartmentalize the issues from the shot in front of them and go about hitting the shot in front of them. The top players all are very, very good at that. And DeChambeau is a top player, and he's good at it. And so I don't think that it affected him much in that way. Plus, he has been playing very well lately, and he ended up not having a good Sunday. Okay, there's a great many players who didn't have a good Sunday, but he still was playing really well. He chased that 68. He touched it 66 times on Friday. The score ended up being 68 with the penalty, but he went out the next day on Saturday and shot 69. He still was in the mix. He's a good player, and he has been playing well. Again, slipped with a 72 on Sunday, but I don't think it affected him much at all. He and the two shots, if he would have stayed at the top of his game where he was for the first couple days, he would have overcome that. He could have overcome that. He's just that quality of a player.
Now, of course, hindsight is 20/20, but you're a man of honesty and integrity, so I know you'll answer this question thus. Ryan Fox, Cam Young, Sam Burns, Scotty Scheffler, Tommy Fleetwood, they obviously all played very well on what was, like, by all accounts, a pretty burnt out and difficult, fast course. When I give you that list of names, were those the guys that you thought, hey, this might actually work for them?
Scheffler and Young, yes. Burns, I would not have been surprised. I've got a good friend who was all in on Sam Burns from a couple weeks ago. Ryan Fox, no. He was not on my radar. Now, the fact that he ended up being there ultimately was not a terrible surprise. For one thing, the tour is so deep. Holy cow, there are so many good players who any week can have a good week. They can lace together 4 rounds, and they can win. And if it happens to happen on a major championship week, then look at that. You've got a piece of history. Andy North only won 3 tournaments in his PGA career. 2 of them were U.S. Opens. Orville Moody only won 2 or 3. One of them was a U.S. Open. So you can do that kind of thing. But no, going into this, was I looking at Ryan Fox? I was not. I did have Cameron Young on my radar. I absolutely had Scotty Scheffler on my radar. I was cheering for Tommy Fleetwood. He grew up 5 minutes away from this golf course. This is his hometown, his childhood town. So some of the other names up there high on the leaderboard, yeah, I was looking at them, as was everybody else. But anybody who says that they had money on Ryan Fox coming in, they either put money on everybody in the field or they're pulling your leg.
How shocked were players by the conditions of the course and the fact that, it's not supposed to be hot like that in England really ever, but this time of year, I guess if it's going to be hot, it would be this time of year. I was hanging out with some English folks over the weekend, and they were like, man, you don't realize we don't have air conditioner in our homes. This is a bad deal for a lot of us.
That's exactly right. That's a really interesting and good question. These British Opens get baked out and the courses get fiery. It seems like kind of on a 10-year cycle. It happens. And there are some very famous British Opens in history where they were playing in course conditions very much like we saw this weekend. The incredible shootout at Troon in 1977 between Tom Watson and Jack Nicklaus. Every time the ball hit the fairway, it kicked up dust. It was so fast and so dry and warm that year. And so it happens, but it is the exception. There's no doubt about it. But going into this one, everybody knew what to expect. The weather patterns had been what they were, and everybody knew that Birkdale was baked out and it was going to be running really fast. And it did, which made for some compelling golf.
So where do you turn your eyes now after this tournament? Are you focused on a particular player? Is there another tournament you're like, all right, this one's going to really challenge the field? Where does Paul Pugmire's attention shift to after the British Open?
Well, of course, I've always got my eye on the Utah players. On Utah Golf Radio, we call them U-Pots, which is a Utah player on tour. So, we're talking Patrick Fishburne, And Zach Blair, Zach's been on a bit of a heater lately. He has 2 top tens in a row going into this week. He wasn't in the field at the Open Championship, but Zach's been playing real well. But really, your attention turns to the FedEx playoffs. The playoffs get going here in about a month, and so we're going to be watching who's the top 30, who makes the field, and we're going to be watching the bubble boys who are trying to get into the top 70 to get their cards for next year.
Paul, I always appreciate your time and your perspective when you give us a little breakdown on this golf stuff. So thank you, and I'll remind everyone to tune in to Utah Golf Radio on Saturday mornings right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
That's Paul Pugmire, our insider here. And, yes, you can listen to him on this very airwave, on this station on Saturday mornings talking golf. He will have a much more in-depth dive into the British Open and everything that's coming. Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor are coming to a big screen near you in the end of Oak Street. This comes out August 14th, but we want to send you early. We're giving away 4 tickets to see an advanced screening on August 10th. Every day this week during Topical Trivia, we've got a 4-pack of sneak preview tickets to the end of Oak Street, August 10th. More details are available at ESPN700sports.com. Make sure you stay tuned. All right, Pete Thamel just gave us, he was on the Pat McAfee show. He's on Twitter giving us some particulars of the Protect College Sports Act and the reaction of certain people to that, especially because SEC Media Days are happening right now. We'll jump into some of that. And, of course, we'll march on with the show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, SEC Media Days every year. They usually wait till after most of the other power conferences have done it. We know that the Big 12 likes to be first to move. Maybe next time, wait, Brett Yormark, so you don't announce a Monster Energy deal that everyone's going to rag on you for. But the SEC Media Days are happening right now. They do 3 days of it because, of course, SEC. The college football world has kind of descended upon the SEC Media Days I think they're in Tampa this year, and everyone's got a lot to say. Of course, this Protect College Sports Act that is rolling forward in the NCAA world has people concerned about grandfathering in fifth-year seniors who have now 5 years of eligibility to play 5 years under the Protect College Sports Act. Pete Thamel was just on the Pat McAfee show and had some really interesting insight into the particulars of what this might do for realignment. And if you're a Utah football fan, you might be among the Utah football fans who wish and hope and dream that this stopover in the Big 12 is temporary for the Utes. I'm not as optimistic as others are that is the long-term plan or even the midterm plan. But according to Pete Thamel, if that is in the plans for teams like Utah, BYU, maybe Texas Tech, North Carolina, Miami, etc., part of the Protect College Sports Act is they want to maintain regionality. Now, you're several years late on this because regionality no longer exists, even with the current makeup of the Big Ten, the SEC. The Big 12 goes from coast to coast almost. The Big Ten literally does go from coast to coast. So there are some issues with that already. But let's just say, for the sake of the conversation, that it makes sense that they're trying to protect regionality. One way that they plan on doing that is by capping conference membership at 19 teams, which means like a merger or a hardcore poaching doesn't really happen. Big Ten already near that limit. SEC already near that limit. The Big 12 could add a couple of more teams here, but you would not. I mean, what a lot of us have talked about is the most likely outcome is that an entire, pod of the top brands in the ACC would end up most likely in the SEC, and hopefully a pod of the top brands in the Big 12 might end up in the Big 10, and Notre Dame could be part of that mix somewhere. And regionally, the Big Ten makes more sense for Notre Dame than the ACC does. Competitively, they're in the ACC and all the other sports, and then football is an independent. Pete Thamel reported that if you want to realign again under the new College Sports Act, you have to be an independent for 5 years.
That's a steep penalty, if you will. I'm not sure it's technically a penalty, but that's
a penalty. It's a hefty penalty.
Man.
Okay, so here's where that becomes woefully problematic if you are the University of Utah. Let's say that the Big Ten is like, all right, you know what? Academically, it makes perfect sense. We want you here. Which, of course, is your hopeful outcome. If this Protect College Sports Act comes into hardcore, unchallengeable law, and again, the whole point of it is to create federal mandates, federal law, federal legislation that supersedes all the state stuff that has caused a bunch of these problems in college sports. If it comes and this maintains that this is part of this clause stays in there, then you're just like, okay, Utah, you can go, but you have to be an independent for 5 years. Utah athletics, without a television revenue distribution from the Big 12 conference for 5 years, is deep in the red. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they'd become insolvent, but you're cutting programs. Utah athletics is struggling through. That beautiful new baseball facility suddenly looks crazy expensive. Whatever hope you had for anything on the Huntsman Center, put that to the wayside for another 5 years. I mean, this is heavily punitive. There are teams that could do it, right? SMU just showed the ACC that they can, will, and are willing to do it. They're doing it right now. They're just like, We're effectively financially an independent. We're part of your conference, but you're not giving us any of the money from your conference. So we get to compete and we get to enjoy some of that like association, but we're just the kid at the popular table that is hosting all the pool parties. Like, we're bringing everything that we have to the table, and you're giving us nothing in return. Texas Tech could handle it because Cody Campbell would keep writing the checks for 5 years. If they got invited to the SEC or the Big Ten or whatever, he'd be like, fine, we're independent for 5 years. And your athletic director would whine and complain that they have to make a schedule, and your fans would whine and complain that that schedule come October, November would suck, like we saw with BYU for a while, right? But you could do it. You could maintain it for 5 years. BYU could do it.
They just did it for longer than that.
BYU did it for a decade.
Yeah.
And BYU would just be like, Tom Holmoe, we need you. Brian Santiago would be like, Tom, remind me, like,
scheduling czar.
Just remind me how you did all this again. You know what I mean? And whether you like it or not, BYU has enough LDS fans scattered throughout the country that ESPN or the CW or somebody would be like, yeah, we'll give you your own little mini television deal. It's not going to be anywhere near what you need to keep up with the big conference teams, but we'll give you a little something.
Yeah.
We'll sprinkle something on here. You'll get 10, 12, $15 million a year. Now, Utah could try to do that, but Utah's number would not be as big, and it would be really, really difficult. Would it be worth it to go independent for 5 years to end up in the Big Ten? 877-353-0700. Would you be willing to lose Utah softball, to use Utah swimming and diving, to lose Utah fill in the blank on whatever sport you think gets sacrificed? Gymnastics is going to stay because it's a national power. Football is going to stay because it's the revenue driver for everything. Basketball, both men's and women's, you have to keep because of the same thing with football to a lesser extent. Baseball, softball, women's track and field. We don't have a men's track and field team at the University of Utah. Everything is up for discussion at that point. Volleyball, love you. Love volleyball athletes. Like, it's a great sport. It's something I think at least my oldest daughter is probably going to get into sooner than later because she's so dang tall. Like, all of that, if you're willing to suffer for 5 years, you got to start squeezing at some point, and you don't want to. We just spoke with Mark Harlan down at Media Days, and he's like, we've added a bunch of scholarships. People don't talk about this. We've added a bunch of scholarships across the board in the athletic department because it's no longer scholarship limits, it's roster sizes, and instead of getting rid of teams, they've gone up to the level where they've added scholarships, and now you can split scholarships up and things like that. Jeez. If you want to move under this new act, if you want to move from one conference to another, and they're trying to prevent realignment. They want realignment to not happen. They're saying, yeah, you got to be an independent for 5 years.
And
Would you, as a Utah fan, is that a jagged, bitter pill that you would swallow? So let's say it happens, 2026 is already in the books, right? Let's say in spring of 2027, Oregon and Washington get together and convince the rest of because USC is not going to help you out. They convince the rest of the Big Ten that Utah is a great partner to have. Let's invite them to the Big Ten. Are you willing to go from 2026? Well, we'll say 2028 because you're not going to make a decision in 2027 that happens for 2027. Would you be willing to go from 2028 to 2033 as an independent? And would you be willing to head into the Big Ten eventually just hanging on by your fingernails from a revenue and a financial standpoint, knowing that the life raft is there in 2033, knowing that if you can get to that finish line after 5 years of independence under this rule set, you would have $100 million a year coming in plus. I mean, I still think there's a lot of Utah fans that would take that risk. I still think there's a lot of BYU fans that would take that risk. I still think there's a lot of Colorado fans that would be like, yes, let's do it. I think Arizona State would be like, fine, we'll do it. Get rid of the hockey team. no matter how good they are. Get rid of the wrestling team, no matter how good they are. Just keep us afloat until we can get to Big Ten Island. That's the rule proposed in this Save College Sports Act. Protect College Sports Act is what it's called.
The one distinction they made, this is that 5 years of independence is for Power 4 teams moving conferences. The group of 5, 6, whatever you want to call it now, those schools can immediately join. They don't care about
why they didn't do that?
Schools doing that.
You know why they didn't make a rule, a punitive rule about that? Because they know it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. But, I mean, Utah State fans, you're not going to have to worry about this if you ever get a Big 12 invite or something in the future.
And, of course,
if this goes through anyway.
Of course, if Texas Tech did leave, or if Utah, Colorado, Arizona State, BYU, if any Big 12 team did leave, if any ACC team did leave, willing to suffer through that 5 years of independence, if it was enforceable, which you always have to say now, then the elevation happens. Then the Big 12 comes calling for UNLV or Utah State or whoever and says, hey, join us, jump on board. And then you're happy you don't have to do that. But, man, that is – you want to talk about a well-designed policy, which no one in the – and the reason we're talking about it because the SEC is like, no, we do not support this Protect College Sports Act. They're no.
Yeah, I don't think any Power 4 conference is going to – especially with these new this new focus is how Pete Thamel has framed it on team limits for conferences and this punitive 5 years of independence requirement for if you're transferring conferences from if you're already a Power 4 school. I don't think any of the conferences we won't see Brett Yormark come out and say, yeah, we're still on board with this. Absolutely not.
Okay, so let's say the Protect College Sports Act fully executed, right? Rubber stamped, ironclad, no litigation can break it. It's federal law. Okay? We get to December of 2026 and it's like this is how things are done here. And this is a good question that comes in from Spencer on the text line. If BYU moves to the Big Ten, because they could figure out a way to afford it. Let's not say it any other way. If they move to the Big Ten, which is in and of itself a massive question because of the academic stuff, but I'll go along with the scenario. Does Utah feel the pressure to follow? The answer is an absolute, emphatic yes. Neither of these schools are ever going to let the other one leave them behind again. It will not happen from now until when our AI overlords create Terminator Doomsday and murder us all. Now until the end of time, BYU and Utah will aggressively work to maintain at least on paper equality in the sports world. If BYU makes a move, then Utah will follow. And vice versa is 100% true. If the Big Ten comes calling to Utah and says, look, we can only add a team because we're already near the max capacity under this Protect College Sports Act. We wanted it to be Notre Dame. Notre Dame is really stubborn. You're our next choice. We want you guys. Are you going to come? Utah is saying yes. And the Big Ten's going, how are you going to pay for it? And then Utah goes, well, I'm glad you asked because we became the first team and the first university, and a lot of people made fun of us for it, and a lot of people questioned whether it was a good idea. We became the first university to partner with a private equity firm to sell some of our athletic department off to private equity in order to create new revenue streams, in order to keep up with these Joneses. And now that we know that there's a bridge, a direct one that can get us from here to there, they're going to keep us afloat until that Big Ten payday comes in. And then suddenly, Crimson Brand Partners, Otro Capital, looks like the life raft that it was promised. And so maybe all of us have been sitting out here playing checkers while President Randall and Mark Harlan and Otro Capital were playing chess, realizing that this was the eventuality that teams like Utah, teams like BYU, teams like Colorado, teams like North Carolina are at some point going to need a bridge loan effectively to get you and your athletic department from point A to point B. Maybe I'm giving too much credit because how could you anticipate that? Also, this is not rubber stamped just yet, and it feels like there's going to be enough resistance to it that 5 years might go down to like 0, or maybe they meet in the middle and it's 2 years or 3 years. But it would be the wildest roll of the dice to say, yes, we can get from here to there. And it'd be worth it because but then imagine how far behind, though, then you would be when you got to the Big Ten. You'd be Maryland for a while. It would be
UCLA with what we've heard about their bottom line in their athletic department. This money is like helping them break even, basically.
Yeah,
they're getting from the Big Ten.
If you believe the reporting, and there's no reason not to, the UC athletic department was like $100 million in the hole when they were in the Pac-12. And everyone's just like, yeah, but now we're going to the Big Ten, so we'll be all right. And eventually they will be all right, but it's going to take a bunch of time.
I mean, I think that's a pretty good analogy for a school like Utah that would have to suffer this would be 5 years of independence for a Power 4 team moving to another Power 4 conference. I don't think that if and when the Protect College Sports Act gets passed into federal law and, like you said, stands up to all the inevitable challenges in court all the way up to the Supreme Court, I don't believe that the final draft of the bill of the law will have this 5 years of independence rule in it. But it may have, like you said, a couple of years. I think that would be interesting. I think that would help
honestly,
stability in college sports.
And honestly, the bigger concern for me, if I'm talking, is capping them at 19 teams. That's one where I'm just like, no, man. Like, because if it's 19 teams in the SEC and 19 teams in the Big Ten, Utah does not get the invite.
No, that's 4 teams left combined, 3 in the SEC, 1 in the Big Ten. Yeah, Utah, BYU, name a local school, name a regionally near us school. They're probably not getting in.
Well, because I could tell you who does. It's Notre Dame, Miami, North Carolina, Duke.
Yeah. Or Florida State instead of one of those.
Yeah, instead of maybe them instead of Duke or whatever.
Yeah. There's you're right. There's like 5 schools, and Utah, BYU are probably
the next
closer to 10.
It's like the next crop would be
Texas Tech,
because they got so much dang money. And again, this is where the next round of realignment, when it happens, it's not if, when it happens. You remember the last one when we were just like, oh, man, it's a television market size and stuff like that. Now, I don't think that's going to matter to these people anymore. I think that the main driver of the last rounds of realignment, talking about, well, how many television sets can you bring to my conference? How large is your population base and all that kind of stuff? I think next time they're just going to be like, dude, what's your endowment? How much money you got?
Yeah. What kind of NIL, how much money you got in your collectives isn't really a thing anymore, but in your collective, that's what's going to drive this. I absolutely agree with you. Kansas would be one of the Big 12 teams in that next tier, probably.
I'm also not convinced that, and it won't happen anytime soon, but I'm also not convinced that if and when realignment happens again in college football, that just being on the right side of the line now means that you stay on the right side of the line. I think that there are going to be some universities that are just they kind of get pushed out, right? Because of the same thing. And that, again, is where we maybe have to give a little bit more wait and see kind of credit to Crimson Brand Partners and a private equity deal. Because you know who's looking at it now? You know who the latest school that is rumored to be exploring an individual private equity partnership is right now? Have you seen this? It's LSU. And you look at LSU and you're just like, why does LSU need that? I'll tell you why LSU needs that. Because LSU is expected to be a national championship contender every single year. And LSU has a backyard full of 5-star recruits. And LSU has a trophy case full of all these great things. But LSU does not have the same donor base that Texas Tech does right now. It's a good one, but LSU is not the big money school that A&M is, that Texas Tech is, that Alabama is, that Miami is. They're just not. And I don't know if it's a geographic thing. I don't know if it's like I'm not deep enough into it to know exactly why. But they don't have the alumni base that BYU's got from a spending standpoint. And they're LSU. They're supposed to be in that conversation every single year. So they're now talking about a private equity partnership potentially.
So you're saying that Lane Kiffin, he left Ole Miss to go to a school that he said they're just better set up to win. Ole Miss is never going to be that high. So what does that make Ole Miss if LSU is actually not financially as set up to win as we would have thought before, right?
They're definitely more set up to win than Ole Miss.
Yes, it's just wild that was the rationale that Lane Kiffin gave us, and now it's coming out that actually we're behind a lot of the schools you would think that we were right up with.
I desperately, by the way, I know we're way overdue for a break here, but I desperately want to. The governor of Louisiana has planned a donor meeting. LSU's like top 40, 50 donors are being invited to the governor's mansion for a summit, for a meeting about how to like make sure that LSU athletics, and there's a lot of people out there that are saying like this is where private equity is going to be proposed and this is what's going to be talked about. And a couple of the articles I've read, it's like, hey, there's going to be seats on a board that they're offered to sell. And where did we hear that kind of thing before, right? So I don't know what's going to come through there and what's not. But, man, how cool would it be to get like a Colonel Sanders costume and like somehow smuggle an invite, forge yourself an invitation, and just be at that governor's mansion? People are like, who are you, sir? Well, my name is Eugenia Doubtfire, and my thing here, I'm a poultry magnate from Arkansas. They'd be like, what? No, that's the Tyson family. No, I'm their number one competitor. It'd be great to somehow find your way into this meeting and figure out exactly what's going on behind the closed doors of like this secret, not so secret governor's mansion financial summit happening in favor of LSU athletics.
I nominate you as our Colonel Sanders costume guy for that meeting.
You could be pretty convincing, James.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do that that amazing accent.
Maybe it'd be like that scene from Inglourious Bastards where Brad Pitt has to go undercover and he can't talk. You know?
Yeah, there it is.
Be more mysterious, not saying much.
I'll do the
work on
I'll do the little bit of sign language I still know.
Work on some expressive faces.
Yeah. Do a little Lionel Messi.
Yeah, one of those. All right, we got to take a break. We're way over time here. How much does a favorite athlete's post-career behavior affect your status as a fan? We have to talk about that because Tom Brady, what are you doing? It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 792.1 FM. How much does somebody's post-career behavior, path, whatever you want to call it, affect how much you're a fan of theirs overall, right? I've kind of been one of these people that, for the most part, like Jerry Rice was my favorite 49er, my favorite overall football player for my entire life. And Jerry Rice, after his career was over, well, the end of his career was kind of terrible, right? And I sort of ignored it, like a lot of you do with the Michael Jordan Wizards years, even though he was still a really excellent basketball player. It just wasn't up to his standard, right? So I like throughout the Seahawks, Broncos, even the Raiders years when Jerry was really, really good still.
Yeah, he was still really good, yeah, and was part of a Super Bowl team with those Raiders.
So I'm like, you know what? Like, maybe I'll consider the Raiders years, but the rest of it, like Jerry Rice is my favorite Niner. He's my favorite football player. I'm gonna remember him that way. And pre-social media, you could do this very effectively. Unless a guy went into coaching or unless a guy went into analyst work, your favorite athlete disappeared. Okay? Patrick Willis. Kind of my favorite modern-day San Francisco 49er. Unbelievable, multi-time all-pro linebacker. Retires relatively early because he's got chronic problems with his feet. You have not seen or heard of Patrick Willis basically since. He's an old-school guy. He's fishing. That's what he does in his retirement. Okay? Maybe we'll see him circle back into orbit sometime. But I don't know. So, like, I am lucky enough. I am blessed by the fact that this person I was a massive fan of has given me no reason to be anything but a massive fan of that person. Tom Brady is screwing up right now. Tom Brady's legacy in the NFL, ultimate winner, ultimate Super Bowl champion, GOAT quarterback, right? People focused on that even when it might have been a little bit more fair to focus on that there was some evidence that he was kind of a crappy dude. But we focused on that because he's Tom Brady, he's Patriots quarterback, it's a dynasty, it's whatever, right? And then, you know, because social media exists and because of how he came back to play that final year and the circumstances with which it basically destroyed his family, there's a little bit of like, oh, man, Tom, yikes. But even then, people are just like, I get it. You know, he's just a football god, and that's what he is. And Tom, instead of fading into obscurity, it's not his way. He signs this obnoxious contract to become a lead analyst, right? And then the criticism of, are you really that good at it? Okay, in year 2, he actually got a lot better, so maybe he is really that good at it, whatever. Now Tom Brady is jumped the shark is probably the best way to put it, okay? He is Happy Days. He is the Fonz on a motorcycle jumping a shark. Tom Brady not happy with the TB12. Tom Brady not happy enough, not satisfied being a lead analyst, getting $35 million a year to do a job that 2 years ago he had never once done before. Tom Brady has decided he needs to be involved with the WWE. It feels very much beneath his status as the all-time greatest quarterback in the NFL, a guy who's considered to be that. It feels very much like slumming it in the WWE to me. Doing these public fake feuds, the Logan Paul, like getting involved with the Paul brothers at all is, while a great way to make money, and if you need to, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not above it. If Jake Paul wants me to announce on his fight cards, I'll do it. If Jake Paul wants to fight me, I'll do it. I will sell myself to make the $5 or whatever $10 million that comes from something like that. Tom Brady doesn't have to do that. I do. If I want that beach house in Hawaii that I've always been dreaming of, I need that. Tom Brady can already buy 100 of them. And it makes no sense to me that Tom Brady, you saw this, right? Tom Brady and Logan Paul slap, like, and then he raises himself up out of a coffin at WWE over the weekend. It's like, dude, you're Tom bleeping Brady.
Well, and the other thing about it is he doesn't even There's two reasons you do that sort of thing, OC. You either need the money or you need the attention. He doesn't need the attention either.
No, you know what? He does need the attention. That's the problem.
Yeah, he's getting objectively he's already getting a ton of attention though, but internally he probably feels like he needs more.
Tom Brady for a lot of years acted like painted this picture of he was the dude that was driven by competition and driven by football, and he wanted to be the ultimate winner. His entire brand was built on that. Not I love being famous, not I love the big paychecks. I'll defer my salary to make it a signing bonus or whatever to help the team around me. I will be the ultimate winner, right? That's his whole brand. That's his whole thing. I will eat avocados and nothing else for 20 years so I can be the ultimate winner. And we all respected that. Even those of us who hated that kind of learned to respect, like, holy cow. As an athlete, this dude is above reproach. This dude will do whatever it takes. And I don't think any of this changes that, but it's kind of like icky. It's just like, oh, Tom, you just want to be famous. And being famous for being Tom Brady is apparently not enough. You want to be famous, like the camera always on you, people always talking about you. Maybe you feel some weird insecurity now because the tabloids keep showing pictures of your ex-wife and the new baby. I don't know. But it's like, why are you doing this, Tom Brady? I would say the same thing if it were Jerry Rice in the WWE. I didn't like he spent a couple of years kind of doing weird stuff, making weird appearances. And I was like, what are you doing? You're Jerry Rice. You might be the greatest overall football player the NFL has ever seen to that point. What are you doing? Right? If Aaron Donald comes out of retirement and plays, we're going to be like, awesome. If Aaron Donald, being relatively quiet the last couple of years, if Aaron Donald decides he wants to go on the Real World Road Rules Survivor, something like that, we're going to be like, what are you doing? Don't do this. And I get it. That's unfair. They're adults. They should be able to do whatever they want. But it feels so like it's eye-opening is probably the best way to put it. Because I was wrong about Tom Brady. I thought Tom Brady's whole thing was he just wants to win at the highest level, and fame is a byproduct. And fame is something that he will suffer through and deal with because he cares about winning that much. Now, the fame is something that Tom Brady loves.
Or at the very least, he feels he's felt a void of not being the greatest quarterback in the league now. He's felt that void of fame, and now he's feeling like, okay, I gotta, even though he's on every Fox broadcast and he's on every Fox promo during football season, he's still getting all that football fame from that. Maybe it's like, okay, I didn't necessarily care for that as a player, but now I'm missing it. And so he's doing stupid stuff like this. Like, I agree with you. It seems beneath him, and neither of us are wrestling fans, so that's part of it too. It's like we have a hard time understanding why anyone wants to debase themselves in that way, but especially a guy like Tom Brady.
I mean, I understand why like Floyd Mayweather keeps doing these dumb exhibition boxing matches against random celebrities, because he has spent all of his money and he's got 10 baby mamas and like there's all these problems, right? I understand why like Johnny Knoxville will forever keep making Jackass movies. We've now had like 4 in a row that are the last ride. It's like Kiss keeps going on farewell tours. You know what I mean? I understand why that happens. These guys need it. They need the money. They need to keep doing it or whatever.
They need the fame. They need the attention, whatever.
I never thought that this was – I never thought that was going to be the Tom Brady thing. I thought we were going to get a dignified end to Tom Brady, the football player. And we're getting – like, if this is how he wants to roll, cool. It is undignified.
Yeah. You lose a lot of respect from even the people that you described, the you and I's of the world that always rooted against him. Sports hated him, but begrudgingly went, you can't not admire what he's done. You can't go, that guy's not the greatest quarterback ever. Like, you have to at least give him that kind of respect, even if you hated the Patriots. He's like, losing a lot of that for us.
It's like Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Tom Brady and Michael Jordan, for me, the same sports fan relationship with those two, right? Begrudging admiration of their ability to win, even though it stopped teams I wanted to win from achieving greatness.
So you hated him for that reason.
So you hate him for that reason, but you come around to the fact of admiration, just like, oh my gosh. And Michael Jordan, despite owning one of the biggest brands in America, or being a part owner, I guess, of one of the biggest brands in America, and despite the fact that he is, when he feels like it, visible even on like the NASCAR scene and things like that, despite, him getting involved in many business operations, being an owner in the NBA, now selling and things like that, he has maintained the mystique of Michael Jordan, right? Not because he hides and is a hermit, but the mystique of MJ is still there. The GOAT status is still there. He doesn't weigh in all that often on like the LeBron James stuff. When he does, he's just like, yeah, okay, well, it's me, but whatever. You know what I mean? He doesn't. He could at any time make a phone call, and Kenny Smith's off the desk, right?
Yeah, you Chuck and Shaq next to Ernie.
Like, it's over for Kenny if Michael Jordan wants to do that.
Absolutely.
He doesn't. If he did, that would be like at least basketball centric and probably would allow him to maintain. But if Michael Jordan came out and was just like, okay, I'm gonna go on a bunch of like dumb game shows, you'd be like, what are you doing, Michael Jordan?
Dude, WWE,
or do WWE.
Hit the WWE circuit, even like
the Golden Bachelor this year is Michael Jordan.
Even
like, what?
Even if he a lot more legitimate now, especially, even if he was like, I'm going to be the ringside announcer for every UFC fight, we'd kind of look at that and be like, why? What do you don't need to do that, Michael Jordan. And that's how this feels for Tom Brady.
It's how it feels for Tom Brady. Like, MJ has maintained his mystique. Joe Montana has maintained his mystique.
Absolutely. Even after Joe Montana, this was before my time, but I've heard the stories after he was was he a studio analyst in the 90s? He was a by all accounts, an awful NFL analyst by a lot of people's surprise, because he was Joe Montana, Joe Cool, right? Like, of course he's going to be great on TV. He wasn't, and yet he still maintained the cool Joe Montana thing.
Tom, you're losing it, man. And you don't have to. You could just stop slapping Logan Paul on camera, and then you get to go back to being like, dude, that's the GOAT. That's the all-time greatest quarterback.
Just do what the Fox NFL promos are saying that you're doing, which is grinding tape all the time to conquer this next frontier of being the greatest color analyst of all time, because that's what you're about. You're just about winning everything that you do. This WWE and, like you said, slapping Logan Paul in the face publicly at Fanatics Fest, like, that takes away from that. That is something beyond I just care about winning. That's I'm screaming for attention, and it's not a good look.
All right, got to take a break here. When we come back, it's the Daily Dump, brought to you by Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. A fun little memorabilia opportunity for you if you're a hardcore soccer fan. And also, politicians, some of them like to pretend that they are sports fans. There's at least one country in the World Cup whose president was a real sports fan, and I can tell you how I know in the Daily Dump. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show, Daily Dump. Look for the truck with the duck if you have any plumbing problems, which, let's be honest, after a big day watching the World Cup final, maybe a couple of pizzas, could potentially be time to make sure that the drains are cleaned, everything's unclogged. You know what I'm saying? Look for the truck with the duck. Tell them OC sent you. Go to Valley Plumbing HVAC to make an appointment online. You don't even have to pick up the phone. I don't like to get too far into politics on this show, but this is an amazing story. Argentina, of course, in the World Cup final yesterday at MetLife Stadium. And
New York, New Jersey Stadium.
President Trump was there, of course. Premier of Canada there. President of Mexico there. Host nations, top political figures. Right?
All on the dais, handing out medals and shaking hands. Yeah.
The King of Spain or whatever there. Argentina's president not in the building. Did you know this?
I didn't know that.
Argentina's president chose not to attend the World Cup final, where his beloved Argentine soccer side could have taken back-to-back World Cup trophies home. Do you know why he chose not to go?
A prior conflict of some
He's
sort.
too superstitious. He's a real sports fan. And he's like, no, I'm not going.
Every time it's like every time I go to a game they lose situation.
He watches the games in the same spot in his house wearing the same thing.
Okay.
He had a jacket that he was wearing when Argentina was playing against Switzerland. He took it off, and Switzerland immediately scored a goal. He put the jacket back on. He's like, nope.
He's like, it's 100 degrees in my house, but I have to have this jacket on.
Now, if this is the president of your country, you want him to worry about the bigger fish, but he's not. His decisions make no difference in my life because I'm not an Argentine. But I respect the heck out of this because this is a politician who's not being a performative sports fan. He is a real sports fan. Of course, he can get on the government charter. He can fly whatever they call it down there, their equivalent of Air Force One.
Argentina One.
He can go to New York. He can get a limo to the game. He can sit in a box. He can be on the field pregame. He can be on the field hugging the crying players after the game. He's the president of Argentina, for hell's sake. But he's such a sports fan that he's just like, nah, man, I don't want any bad juju just because I decided I had to be there. I'm doing the same thing that gives them good luck all the way through this tournament. So he watched it at his house wearing his lucky jacket, and unfortunately it didn't work out. But I love that from an actual sports fan politician.
Did he move over 6 inches from his lucky spot when what's his face got the second yellow and they went a man down? Is that what?
Probably the maid's fault. There? Whoever cleaned up probably vacuumed up the lucky crumbs off his lucky chair or something. You know what I mean?
I love this too, OC. This is incredible that there's someone who actually has real power. Is just like the rest of us.
Here's what I want, okay? If you're going to be a politician and you're not the sports fan politician, fine. I'm okay with that. It's probably actually better that you don't spend your time like 3 hours on a Sunday watching your favorite NFL team. It's probably better that you don't spend 3 hours on a Saturday watching your favorite college football team. You probably should be handling things that actually are relevant to government life. But if you're going to pretend for the sake of your constituency, if you're going to act like you're a sports fan so that you appeal to the everyman and the voter, I want someone immediately, I want there to be a verification process, right? If you're the governor of somewhere and you're just like, yeah, I'm going to the Jazz game tonight. I'm really excited. You know me, I'm just like you. I live and by my Utah Jazz. You know, I want someone immediately to be like, all right, who's your favorite player? What number does he wear? What do his stats look like? What college did he go to? I want someone like gatekeeping.
You want
on politicians. I want to mansplain. Hey, you better know exactly what you're talking about with sports, or don't pretend you're a politician sports fan.
What's your game day routine?
Yeah, I want that.
Are you superstitious?
I don't want gatekeeping done for any other fan in any other situation. But if you're going to weaponize your fandom to try to get votes, you better be a real fan, buddy.
Yeah.
Right?
All right.
And that goes for everyone. That goes for our president. That goes for everyone. Like, hey, you think you need to be here giving out medals? Name one player. Like, what? If you can't, go. Don't be here.
Mexico's president's gonna hand out the medals.
Like, I want that. You know? Same thing when owners are the first guys that get to touch the trophy.
Yeah.
No. You don't get to touch that Super Bowl trophy unless you can tell me who the leading rusher in today's game was.
Hockey does it. Hockey does it way better than everybody else in the North American sports. I've learned in the past couple of years. The owner is not the first one to touch the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, but did you see what happened with the Stanley Cup?
Oh, I missed.
So the Carolina Hurricanes owner is this famously cheap Portland Trailblazers owner now.
Yeah.
What's his name? Jed Lowry? No,
that's
the A's guy. He put Tom Dundon. Is that his name?
Yeah, that's it. The guy who killed the Alliance of American Football too, by the way.
Yes. So,
and the Salt Lake Stallions.
Because he's the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes and they won the cup this year. If you look at, it's like a cake. If you look at the layer of the cake where the Carolina Hurricanes are, his name, his wife's name, and the names of all of his children are there on the cup in front of the players who actually won the cup.
Is that the first time that's happened?
Nobody's ever put their kids' names on it before. He wanted his whole family's name on the Stanley Cup. That's dumb.
That's dumb that they let him do that too. Like, you know what, Mr. Dundon, thank you for your input, but this is for team personnel.
I want, again, if you're a non-sport, if you're a theater kid politician, I'm totally fine with that. All right, you can pretend somewhere else. I don't need you to pretend like you're a sports fan. But if you're going to, I want verification.
Yeah. Okay.
I want someone to be all up in your business, being like, "Oh, you're a big Utes fan, huh? Who do you think's going to start a quarterback this year?"
No, the first question you ask is who is head coach, and then when he starts to say, "Well, that's easy, Kyle Whittingham," you go, "No, you're not a real fan."
Wrong. You've been leaning on the last 21 years to get that answer. Actually, quarterback's probably too easy of a question. You got to be like, dude, who do you think's going to start on the offensive line? Give me two of the 5 names.
Starting punter, go.
And then you're just like, no. I think Spencer Cox is like an actual sports fan. I need someone to verify. I need someone to do that super annoying thing that guys always do on dates when the girl is just like,
that women hate, by the way.
Oh my gosh, I love the Golden State Warriors. Oh, really? And they do that thing like, let me test you. Let me gatekeep on this. That's not appropriate on a date. That is appropriate when we're talking about politicians. Can we get on board with this? Argentina's president passes that test. Will our president pass that test? I'm doubtful.
Spencer Cox, Governor Cox, he's been on the station a number of times. We need to get him back in studio, and you can do this.
I'm going to do it.
Him.
I'm going to do it.
If you're listening, you're going to get an email soon.
And guess what?
Governor's office.
You are forewarned. Okay, so now we've given him study material,
and it's absolutely no disrespect. We're having a good time with this. Just we want to see if you're a real sports fan.
And if not, just don't talk about sports. Talk about the budget.
You're not allowed to talk about sports anymore.
You're not allowed. Okay, and I guess I am now being problematic because I should not be able to dictate who gets to talk about what. But here we are.
Here we are. I love this. Who would have thought that a leader of a country has a lucky jacket and a lucky spot, and to the point where when I've taken it off, the other team scored. I can't ever take that thing off. That's amazing.
You can buy grass from the World Cup final and a lot of the World Cup stadiums on the official FIFA memorabilia website. They're selling, I think most of them that I saw, it was like $500 for a chunk of grass.
Wow.
And it comes in a little case, and you probably got to treat it like a terrarium. Occasionally get some water in there.
Certificate of authentication
Yes,
with it. Yeah.
they have those. And it's funny because every NFL player that plays in these stadiums is longingly watching the grass and be like, hey, could you just leave this in here?
You know what? I'll buy the grass, and we'll just keep it in the stadium.
I really believe that the next NFL collective bargaining agreement, especially after this World Cup, is going to have playing surface as a major point of emphasis, and NFL players, right or wrong, are going to insist on playing natural grass. And the NFL owners, who have been like, absolutely not because it's a cost problem, can reach into their multi-billion-dollar pocketbooks and eventually, pay for grass if that's what the players actually want. Now, I've been on record to say I think it's actually probably a little bit silly for players to act like grass is always every minute better than even turf is. Turf is a lot better than it used to be. This is not like the AstroTurf carpet of the old days. Field turf is a relatively forgiving surface in a lot of ways, but it's a preference thing for players. The science is that injuries happen in football because football is a violent game, and they actually don't occur at any kind of higher rate on turf than on grass. There's also the problem that we are comparing turf to perfect conditions grass in almost every single case. When natural grass is on a field and that grass is sodden, loose, muddy, whatever, now we're talking about an exponential increase in risk for these football games. So when it's 77 degrees in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and the grass is perfectly green and delightful.
When they're turning on the sprinklers at every hydration break, you notice that in the World Cup, right? Like
they did that at RSL the other night too. That's a soccer thing, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so, which is great. Keeps the grass in the best condition possible. But like that's not happening in NFL games.
And so that's what I mean here, right? Like there are NFL teams who have gone to great lengths. In Arizona, they have that retractable field where it goes on to like the pallet, and then the pallet exits the stadium and can grow out there, and you can close the stadium and keep it cool in the stadium, and then you can roll the grass back in. It's expensive. It's crazy, right? But that's what you do, right? I think it was it the Bernabeu in Spain? They did like an underground. It's like, how they have those platforms on stages where like the artist will come up from underneath the stage and suddenly Michael Jackson is standing there and rises up through a hole in the stage.
Yeah.
They did that. I think it was the Bernabeu. They did that for an entire soccer field. They could lower it down underneath. There's like hydraulic things, right? There's a floor that closed over, and there was grass, grow lights, everything, perfect conditions underneath. And then when it was time, they'd be like, and they would raise it up out of the ground to install in the stadium. And like that costs $1 billion or whatever. But because that kind of money comes in for the NFL, that kind of money comes in for international soccer, comes in for European soccer, the soccer players demand it. They're like, yeah, you're going to do that. We're going to have perfect grass on every field. At this level, at the Premiership level, at the Champions League level, we're going to have a perfect surface. In the NFL, the players are watching it. George Kittle was tweeting about it. A bunch of like wide receivers and defensive backs were tweeting about it. They're just like, why are you getting rid of the grass? FIFA put in this grass for you, and you just don't want to pay to have to maintain it. Why are you getting rid of the grass? NFL teams, a lot of the players want it. I think it's going to be a big thing in the next collective bargaining agreement. Other news from SEC Media Days. Greg Sankey he was asked, of course, about breaking away, the SEC potentially breaking away from the rest of college football, breaking away from the current NCAA system if they don't get their way on this Protect College Sports Act, which is heavily in doubt. If they don't get the kind of concessions they want on things like conference realignment, the kind of concessions they want, on federal oversight to keep the playing field relatively level. Would you break away? Would the SEC consider breaking away? Or is that just a threat for leverage? And his insistence, of course, because it's the company line, is that, no, these are real conversations that we're having, and it's not the ideal outcome for anybody. We don't want to have to do this, but we are willing to do it if it preserves college football as we see fit. And that is the ultimate crux of the entire conversation. The as we see fit part varies from the SEC to the Big Ten, from the Big Ten to the ACC, from the ACC to the Big 12, and from all those power players and the money teams. Certainly there's a disparity between what they think is fit versus what the Utah States and the Mountain Wests and the new Pac-12s of the world think, right? So Sankey being asked about this, would you guys actually break away? He effectively said, and I'm paraphrasing, we don't want to, but we will if we have to. And the SEC is going to dig its heels in a way that even the Big Ten won't, because the system right now is really favoring the Big Ten. The Big Ten is in a situation where they now have the last 3 national championships in football. They're now national champions in basketball. Their large population centers and the new rules have allowed for some upward mobility, even for like the Indianas of the world. Indiana just got the number 1 wide receiver in the class of 2027 to commit to Indiana. He's a 5-star talent that had an offer from everybody, and he's going to Indiana. He's not going to Miami. He's not going to Bama. He's not going to Georgia. He's not going anywhere except Indiana, right? So the Big Ten is like, yeah, cool things are happening for us. We like this. And the SEC is like, if they perceive that the rules proposed in this Protect College Sports Act are favoring the Big Ten 1 iota more than the SEC, then they will potentially take their ball and go home.
It's really hard being having the 5th best team in the country every year instead of the best team in the country every year. Oh my gosh, the world's smallest violin is playing. If you listen closely for Greg Sankey in the SEC,
Everything. It's always relative, right? Your expectations and your experiences, everything is relative. Whether you judge something to be a good or a bad outcome is always relative to, kind of how you live. We have, every one of us in the friend group has that friend that like just is insufferable if they have to eat like just a regular meal. What are you doing? I know this is not great food, but just stop. It's not always delicious because either their spouse is an incredible cook or they're like a crazy health nut or whatever. They're just like, no, I'm not eating this. You're like, it's okay one time to have to eat this.
I'm gonna have the worst stomach ache later.
You go on a date with somebody who's from like a wealthy background and they're just like, oh, this is what you can provide me? This sucks. And you're just like, yeah, sorry that I'm not rich. It's like,
you could take me somewhere next time.
It's like, right? It's like your expectation. The SEC is having this problem where they're like, they come from the rich household and they had to move into the dorm.
Yeah, they're accustomed to a certain standard of living, OC, and being, like I said, closer to the 5th best team in the country in any given sport is not that standard of living.
This happens to people, right? In elementary school, there's somebody out here listening right now. In elementary school, in 3rd and 4th grade, you were the fastest kid in school, and then another kid moved into the boundaries and became the fastest kid in school, and you were like, crap, what the heck? My status, I didn't do anything different or wrong, and I just got demoted here. I am now the 2nd fastest kid in 5th grade.
The move in, the shine on the kid who moved in was always the worst.
Dude.
Always the worst.
Okay, I've referenced him on the show before, all right? 3rd grade, I'm the new kid in the boundary, all right? Playground football, I was formidable, okay?
You're the man.
I was pick number 1 going into 4th grade.
Wow, number 1 overall pick on the playground.
And then guess what happens? Trevor Moss moves into the boundary.
Shout out to Trevor Moss.
And then he's picked number 1, and I'm just like, whatever that is, 10-year-old me is like, what the hell? What happened?
I'm not number 2.
My time in the sun, my brief and glorious. And then guess what? 5th grade, Mike Wahlberg moves in. And Mike Wahlberg was gigantic. Back then, you're playing tackle football on the grass at Willow Canyon Elementary.
Which was probably against the rules.
Totally against the rules.
We had those secret underground tackle football games.
Totally against the rules.
School too, down in St. George.
But, these are short recesses, so you get the warning the first time, and then the stern warning the second time, and by the third time, someone, the recess is over.
Yeah, it's over. Okay.
Right?
We'll stop now.
But then it's like, oh, crap, now you've got this kid who's 180 pounds in 5th grade. He moves into the boundary, and now he's picked number 1, right? It just happens. That's what happened to the SEC. The Big Ten.
Such a terrible existence.
The Big Ten was the fast kid that moved into the boundary, or the big kid that moved into the boundary, and they're just like, no. College football was our thing. We were supposed to be the best at this. And now they can't handle it. All right, we got to double up here. Very excited to have Cindy Ball Malone, the other Coach Bear, the Utah Talents head coach, is going to join us at the top of hour number 3. A reminder to all of you out there, especially in this heat, you're maybe wondering, man, why is my air conditioner working so hard? How come I've set it at 72, but my house can only cool down to 75? Chances are you're losing a lot of cool air from your sliding doors, from your windows, especially if these are older windows with the metal frames and the single pane glass. Advanced Window Products makes the highest quality vinyl windows you can find anywhere, and they do it right here in Salt Lake City. There's a lifetime warranty on these bad boys, and right now, $2,500 off if you buy 10 windows or more. The process from when the salesperson, the quote comes to when you actually have new windows in your house, anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. So you need to get on this now, and that energy efficiency that we're going for, that matters so much in these hot dog days of summer. It's also going to matter when you get into January, February, and now you're trying to keep warm air in instead of the cool air. They're going to save you on energy costs. They're going to beautify your home. They're going to increase the resale value of your home. And most importantly, if there's ever a problem of any kind with these windows, it is covered. It is taken care of under the warranty. 801-850-9100. Give them a call. Tell them OC sent you, and get on the schedule at Advanced Windows right now. Advanced Window Products, official window sponsor of the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 at 92.1 FM. Great stuff coming in on the text line. This is my favorite one from Spencer Cobb. When I was like 7, I was the best basketball player by far in my elementary school. Then this kid came in who was just ridiculously good and went D1 and made me look like the 6-foot white guy that I turned out to be. Yeah, you know what? It happens to the best of us. You're in elementary school. You're the best at your given sport. You're the fastest on the playground, whatever. And then some kid moves in who's faster. Or you hit 4th grade, 5th grade, and the girls start to hit puberty before the boys, and suddenly, like kickball games, the girls are just crushing it, and all the boys are just like, what the heck? What just happened here? We've all been through these formative years in elementary school. You establish that pecking order, and sometimes you feel like you're at the top until a new kid moves in. Well, hey, that might be happening with the Athletes Unlimited Softball League, and the new kid on the block, dare I say it, is your very own Utah Talons head coach Cindy Ball Malone. Coach Bear, kind enough to join us again on the Sean O'Connell Show. Coach, welcome. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Did you ever it's probably weird tuning in and like jumping into this part of the conversation, but we were just talking about how for the SEC, who was always so dominant in football, now like the new kid has moved in and is better at football than them. It happened to some of us during our elementary years that you thought you were the best, and then somebody moved into the boundaries and you weren't. Were you the person who moved in and was the best player, or were you the person who was the best player and somebody else moved in at any point during your childhood?
Oh, I was a slow starter, so I think I was one that kind of learned as I went along because I had to work really hard. So I would say I was maybe somebody that came in after a year or two.
All right, I like that.
Yeah.
Congratulations, postseason bound, the first year finding a home in Utah, being set down here in Salt Lake City, and your team has clinched a berth in the championship series. Congrats on that success, first of all, but has the success so far come kind of how you thought it would? When we last had a conversation, we were just getting the season started, and you didn't really have a good sense yet of whether it was going to be an offensively driven team, whether you were going to live on pitching, whatever. Has the success come the way you thought it would?
Yeah, I mean, I think this year has been just a lot of different heroes in the game. And so I could say, there was high-level moments for pitchers, high-level moments for hitters, defenders, like some high-level base running situations. And so I think it's just been a healthy combination of, all parts of the game.
Relative to, it's a quick little season, right? It's not like this long marathon. And when you talk about, it feels like a few weeks ago that we were having a conversation about camp and about the start of this thing. What kind of growth have you seen from your athletes, from your team, the chemistry, et cetera, that you think has allowed you to be in this championship series this weekend?
Just learning each other. And what's been so amazing is to see these professional women have the ability to be vulnerable in front of each other, like, make a mistake and then come back and hit in a winning run. And so I would say learning from each other, leaning on each other. We've had some bumps and bruises along the way. You've seen some players kind of go on the IR, the IL, and we've had some other players come in, and to be able to play as consistent as we did throughout all of those adversities, it just truly speaks to like what the mission is, what our foundation is, and the culture of our team. And so I think that's been a big part of just watching it grow and seeing us where we're, how we got there.
I'm looking at some of the league stats, and you've got, I'm looking at hitting right now. You've got I'm looking the top 8 here. 3 of the top 8 hitters in the league right now are in your lineup. So how much of that is, you give credit to yourself? I know you're not going to take any, but, the hitting coaches, and really how much of this is just Jadalyn and Aaliyah and company figuring it out at bat?
Yeah. What awesome job. And I'm assuming maybe like a Brie Ellis is in there too. But those 3 really studied what occurred in the league last year and just elevated their game for us. So just like you said, Jadelin's been just lights out for us in so many moments, early in the game, late in the game, multiple hits in games. And then you have Aaliyah, who really turned it on for us in that last game. She got on base and which displayed her speed in the squeeze play, and highlighted a really nice defensive play too. So I know we got to talk about the hitting, but defense definitely wins championships. So, but just to watch their growth over not only this season, but during like training camp and the off season. I mean, they really prepped to be prepared and come back even stronger this year.
So for those who are uninitiated, which of course includes myself, the playoff format and the championship format for the AUSL, what are you guys up against moving forward here?
Yeah, so clinching first place for regular season gives you a bye and an automatic bid into the championship series. So the 2 and 3 seed will play a play-in game on Thursday, and then the 3-game series, best of 3 games, will start on Saturday, and it'll just go Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, best of 3, and when your Utah Talons come out on top of that, champions in this inaugural season here in Salt Lake City.
Absolutely, that's the name of the game. Win that 3-game series, and you leave home champ.
How has the response been at the Dumpke for you this year? Obviously, it's the first time that the league put teams in, rather than barnstorming around like you did in the inaugural season, put teams in home stadiums. How has the Dumpke proven to be a good fit for you?
Oh, it's just amazing. I mean, the people are what really made it, and I'll say, from our fans, our crowds, just the game day atmosphere, so intimate and unique in the league because of our tradition. We asked for some of our unique Utah or UCAW chants, and we got it. And, they have held on to that, and it actually stuck through some of our away games as well. And I'll just say, like, to have that personalized fan base is, I think, just kind of speaks to not only these women on the Talons, just the culture, but then to be able to see it display within our fans and that atmosphere, it's something really special.
Championship series is Davis Diamond down on the campus of Texas A&M, right?
Correct.
Well, have you been there a lot? Tell me what you know about that place, and is there anything unique about trying to get this thing done in College Station for you?
Yeah, so believe it or not, I have never been there, which is crazy because I feel like I've been to like almost every stadium college stadium out there. But I've never been there. But I'll say unique to us, especially in our last few series, is it is a dirt infield. So it's a traditional, college infield. And then I would say the field is one of the better ones in today's game and in the college game. So I would say that those are the things that are pretty unique and exciting for us. I know our pitchers love to pitch on dirt, and they're ready for that. And I think the short game can be played a little bit different too on dirt. So excited to see some of those things come into play as well.
Cindy Ball-Malone, head coach of your Utah Talons, is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. They are into the championship series in their inaugural season in Salt Lake City here for the Athletes Unlimited Softball League. That will take place, as we just talked about, over the weekend into Monday as a best-of-3 series against whoever emerges from the play-in game, 2-3 versus 3 seed. Is there a preference? Do you have more history with one of these teams? Do you have an expectation on who the matchup's going to be?
Well, I don't want to give you just a boring answer, but I'll say we still don't know who that 3 seed is. That'll be determined in today's game with the Sparks and the Blaze. And we just finished playing the Bandits. So, I mean, obviously, from last year, playing the Bandits in the championship series as well. I mean, that's very familiar, but I'm going to just say we're going to just play against our best self. And that's really what we're going to focus on. So whoever ends up in that game against us, that we're ready to roll.
From an overall big picture perspective, and I know you're focused on getting your team ready and the minutia in that front, but all of you are kind of pioneering this thing in a new format. So what are you hearing? I mean, the crowds have turned out, it looks like, in a lot of these places. I imagine momentum is positive. Women's sports in general are thriving right now in the United States of America, but I also, aside from this job, I'm part of kind of a sports startup, and it's scary, it's wild, it's crazy. You're constantly dealing with different curveballs thrown at you and things like that. So from a league perspective, what are you hearing, and how strong does the future look?
Yeah, I mean, well, our goal is to build it faster than anyone else has done it. And I mean, the example in these past couple of days, I mean, will definitely hold true to people are watching, like you said. The unfortunate situation in the Midwest with those fires, we had to there's a curveball for you. We're supposed to be playing our last games in Rosemont, and I think a day before we're supposed to leave, we get told we're going to move the games to Oregon and play there. And to know that we sold like 1,600 to 2,000 tickets in less than 24 hours for that series, I mean, wow, that's just, it's incredible. It's incredible to see how exciting this game is for, the outside world and just the softball fans out there. And I'll say, our hometown is definitely our hometown, but to see reoccurring fans come back to those games in Portland was pretty amazing. And you started to recognize them. You're like, these games weren't even supposed to be here, and all of a sudden we've got a packed stadium again, and they're chanting for Utah. So it's just incredible to see how fast it's picking up, and just how intentional everybody is in making sure that it's done the right way. Because sometimes when things are built fast and you're not intentional about that, there could be issues. But the plan is for this thing to be permanent, and this league to be permanent and continue to keep growing. And the future is definitely bright.
Back to the X's and O's of the actual softball here. So I guess potentially 3 different opponents for you, 3 or 4 different opponents for you in this championship series. Will your pitching lineup change based on who you're facing? Will your batting order change significantly based on who you're facing? Or is it relatively consistent and dialed in regardless of the opponent?
Yeah, I mean, I feel good with any rotation of our pitchers because they all complement each other so well, and then they're all equally number ones in their own way. So I feel, once we kind of find out who is in the series with us, that'll show us, just kind of give us more information of matchups and whatnot. But I think our lineup is our lineup, right? I mean, depending on how people are, being healthy and also maybe who we're lined up to face, like we could see different matchups as well. But we got here with what we've been doing, and I'd say we're going to stick to that. So I like the rotation we have, and all of the pitchers are ready to go. And I mean, they are a huge part of why we are in this position, and we're going to continue to keep relying on them to lead the way, and we'll get those clutch hits and the routine defense in lockdown. So I see the lineup being very similar to what we've been doing.
This is a weird question, but I get into the hardware of championships, and I'm operating under the assumption that the Talons are taking down their 2nd straight Athletes Unlimited Softball League championship. What is the trophy like? Are we going big, fat, audacious championship ring if it goes down like that? Is there some other way to commemorate? What is the hardware on a AUSL championship?
Yeah, well, I actually haven't seen the trophy, but I'm assuming there's a trophy. I will say that we were able to be a part of the ring ceremony for the returning champs from last year in Utah at our home field. And, I mean, that was just amazing to see, like so much fun. And I thought it was cool. It's a really great opportunity for the ones that weren't on the team from last year to say, like, we want this moment next year at this time. And those rings were just obnoxiously beautiful. They were just so amazing. They were big and gold. And I think we even used that as, one of the times when we were going through the adversity, I asked one of the athletes, do you remember your batting average from last year? And they said, no. And I said, do you remember the color of your championship ring? And she was like, gold. Like, that will stick in your head forever. And so that was definitely a goal of, it's not necessarily for the material thing, but what an awesome way to celebrate those champions. I mean, AUSL, Lisa Fernandez, our GM, and everyone involved did such a good job in doing it right and celebrating those guys. And so that's the next goal is let's make them have to design a really cool ring again.
That's the goal, Coach. Good luck, obviously. Thanks so much for taking some time. And after you win it, let's whatever that trophy looks like, bring it here so we can see it in person, and we'll do a little exit interview. Can we get you to commit to that?
If the AUSL is definitely committing to it, then I'll say I'll be there.
Let's go.
I would love that.
All right. Good luck, Coach. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Coach Bear, that's not the hockey Coach Bear. That's Cindy Ball Malone, Utah Talons going for their second straight AUSL championship. And after asking the question, I did look up the ring, the championship ring from last year. It's a great ring. Got the cool Talons eye logo right in the middle of a softball diamond and just a bunch of bling all over it. The bless this nest is, I guess, like the team motto. They got that engraved on the inside. So it's a big old fat chunk. So it's a great championship ring. Hope they get another one.
Yeah, do not fall into the trap and be like, AUSL, new league, obviously very obscure compared to NFL, NBA, whatever. We don't expect the rings to be anything close to that. These are formidable championship rings, like something that you might expect to see in one of those other leagues. That's impressive. Shout out to the AUSL. And
it's a great,
Talons.
It's a great ring.
Yeah.
The league is really cool. I was actually quite happy. I was down in the hotel sports bar the other night in Austin, Texas. Their game against the Bandits was on the TV. So they've got a decent distribution deal. People are watching, and we're now 9 years into this PFL thing, right? And there's like a bunch of terrible, scary, tough milestones along the way. And there's also a bunch of like wins that come along the way. And so having been on the ride for some of that, I really hope that this softball league works out, because this is like the fifth try in the United States for professional softball, and timing is everything, man. Like, you go back even to when, all the sports that weren't a big deal and have become a big deal in the United States, they had their start somewhere. And it feels now we're in 2026. Why would people jump on board with another sports product now? Well, the answers are actually, in this case, obvious. If you're a parent who has softball players in the home, and you probably love going to baseball games, but you want to be able to go support their sport as well. You want them to be able to go and have like aspirations of being pro, if that's something that seems even remotely realistic. And you can do that here in Salt Lake City, and knock on wood, they stay here in Salt Lake and the league continues to thrive. But can't hurt that this team has a chance to take another championship. That'd be pretty cool to go 2 for 2, because AUSL has only been around for 1 3/4 years or whatever.
Yeah.
1.9 years.
This would be back-to-back championships for the Talons first championship for the Utah Talons, but the franchise claims the first championship as well before they gave them home bases, as you talked about with Coach Coach Bear in that interview. Just so everyone knows, anyone who wants to tune in, Game 1 of the championship series, 11 a.m. That's on ABC on Saturday. Noon on ESPN is Game 2 on Sunday, and then the if necessary winner-take-all Game 3 is 5 o'clock ESPN2 on Monday. So there's a play-in game on Thursday. That's going to determine who Utah plays in the championship series, and then it's over either Sunday or Monday. Hopefully, back-to-back championships for the Talons come Sunday or Monday night.
So there's a game between the OKC Spark and what's the Raleigh-Durham Blaze? Is that?
That's the game. That's the last regular season game tonight, and It's the Spark. Look, just pulling up the standings. The Spark and the Cascade from Portland are the two that have a shot at being the 3 seed at that last playoff.
Okay,
spot.
so if the Spark win against the Blaze, it's probably them taking on the Bandits.
If they lose, it'll be the Cascade, Portland.
Okay, so it's either Portland, OKC, or Chicago that the Talons are playing, because whoever emerges from as the number 3 seed takes on the 2 seed. The 2 seed is the Bandits. Utah just beat the Bandits in a series that had been relocated to Oregon because it was supposed to be in the Midwest, but there's a bunch of smoke blowing down from Canadian wildfires.
Man.
The Northeast, like a bunch of flights were canceled this weekend to the Northeast, which is always an absolute mess because it creates this domino effect.
Yeah.
But and then, it's whoever versus your Utah Talons at the Davis Diamond, College Station, Texas. And you cannot get tickets to this.
Already sold out.
They're sold out.
Maybe on the secondary market.
You can get tickets to the Thursday night semifinal game, the play-in game.
That one, I guess, in Oregon because
Incorrect.
Chicago. No, it's in Rosemont.
Nope, it's at the Davis
it's
Diamond.
at Davis. Okay, everything's at Davis and at Texas A&M. Gotcha.
Okay.
So College Station, you can go to the play-in game, the third place game.
Wow.
Or second place game, as it were.
I mean, again, I don't know. There's probably a lot of people who are just like, why are you talking about this? Because I'm fascinated by a startup league when we have a trillion different entertainment options. It's such a bold thing to say, now I'm going to throw another option out there, and I'm going to expect a strong response, and I'm going to expect people to use their time, their money, their energy, their effort to come watch this for the sake of, launching softball professionally in the United States. And by the way, it's failed like 4 times before, but it's working right now. You can get tickets for the play-in game for as low as $25, but the actual championship events, can't buy them. They're sold out. Davis Diamond, well done. Good job, AUSL.
The other bet that Athletes Unlimited, that's what the AU stands for, Athletes Unlimited Softball League. They have other sports leagues they've started as well. There's volleyball and so forth. The bet that they're making is the incredible rise in interest in women's sports, which a lot of that can be contributed to the fascination around Caitlin Clark in basketball, right, OC. The other women's sports leagues in North America, United States, have also grown, just like the WNBA has grown. They're making this bet that, hey, softball can thrive too. And they've got, like I said, they've got a volleyball league, and I'm not off the top of my head, I'm not sure the other leagues that they have, but they have a number of other leagues Athletes Unlimited does. And I think that they might be right about that, even though what you said is true about we have too many entertainment options. We have too many sports options to watch right now. Women's sports is a segment of that there hasn't been enough of that as far as options go, and the interest has gone up. I think that they're proving, at least through their first 2 years, that there is room for growth in this, and that they can get a lot of attention, a lot of interest in women's sports products. AUSL is one of the latest ones.
Has an NBA reporter insider tipped off where LeBron James is going to play next year? Bum, bum, bum. We'll discuss it next on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Where's LeBron James going to play next year? We don't know. Cleveland, Miami, Golden State, Philadelphia may be in the mix. NBA released a preseason schedule, and it just so happens that the Golden State Warriors are going to be hosting the Los Angeles Lakers in the first games of the preseason. Eyeball emoji, eyeball emoji, eyeball emoji, eyeball emoji, eyeball emoji, eyeball emoji.
That settles everything.
That's all I need to know. When it's Mark Spears who's doing that, saying, look at this. That's all I need to know. Mark's very dialed in, okay? He knows the intent. He knows the subtext. He knows these players. I think as far as NBA insiders go, like, he's as informed as anyone. And if he's throwing out irresponsible eyeball emojis on something that might infer that the Lakers and the Warriors is suddenly a lot more interesting in a preseason game, a preseason matchup, it can only be one thing.
Draymond Green's re-signing with the Golden State Warriors. Oh,
Draymond versus Bronny. The rivalry of the century.
Came across a kind of a funny tweet from Barry Jackson, who is his Twitter bio says 35-year Miami Herald veteran. So Miami area reporter. He said, ESPN's Dave McMenamin said Rich Paul told him on Friday there are no perfect options for LeBron. We all saw that little headline there. Kendrick Perkins said he heard Miami is at the top of the list. Mark Spears told him an NBA coach said it's Cleveland or Philadelphia or Golden State. That settles everything.
Oh, good. All right. Okay.
So what
is this or that or this?
The answer to your question that you started out this segment with, OC, where is LeBron going to play next year, is nobody knows. Nobody knows.
I think LeBron might not even know, and that could be why we haven't found out yet.
Yeah. That's the quiet part. It's like, actually, guys, I don't know.
I've said this many times. Like, I was not recruited actively by elite schools when I was a high school athlete, right?
I mean, if you consider SUU not elite.
Hey, whoa.
Well, that was one of your schools, right?
Yeah. But here's the thing. If you're a mega bajillionaire, like, I mean, he's a billionaire. If you're LeBron James, who's accomplished everything that you can accomplish in the NBA, and you're playing for reasons that are clear only to you, you're going to continue going at this for reasons that are clear only to you. I don't know what the courtship process actually looks like, because whoever's getting him is not getting him because of money, right? They're not. They're not offering him anywhere near what he's actually worth as an NBA player.
He said well, probably because he knows he can't. There are no options to take anything near a max contract, but he's come out and said, I will take the minimum if I have to play.
And, like, what you're offering is another championship is what you're offering LeBron James. And if you're Steph Curry, you're offering him great golf, right? There's, like, everyone's trying to figure out the right angle. But it's a very different, I imagine, it's a very different courtship process than, pre-decision. It's a very different courtship process than it's been, this is the fourth time he's switching teams, because you're not getting that LeBron who's going to be an MVP and is going to be the reason you win a championship. But also, what you have to offer him is only the pursuit of that. That's why, like, the Minnesota Timberwolves are in the mix. LeBron doesn't want to live in Minneapolis.
Denver's in the mix for the same reasons.
Right? It's probably why Philadelphia should be out of the mix. Because
they just traded for Jaylen Brown.
You're too reliant on the health of a guy who can't stay healthy in order to be in that picture. LeBron, as cringy as he is on social media, LeBron at this point knows that he is not the driving force behind a title team. He knows that about himself. He knows that his body can't handle it anymore the way that it used to. He knows that there are other guys now that are just, like, rounding into form where he's falling out of form. Like, he's a smart enough basketball mind that those things are undeniable for LeBron James at this point. So you don't get to say, hey, this is the best lifestyle you can find here in Minneapolis. This is the best lifestyle you're going to be able to find here in Cleveland. He's like, shut up, guys. I've already lived here. I know what it's like. This is where I'm from. Right?
We have great golf here. I know.
If I'm Cleveland, I'm saying, look, this is where it all started. This is where it could be a full circle thing. You could finish here, and we have a pretty legitimate shot at being an Eastern Conference favorite if you are here and you're healthy.
Even though we have James Harden, and you're going to have to play with James Harden, we have a good shot here.
Yeah. You could also, if you like James Harden, I don't know if LeBron and James Harden get along, you could change James Harden's life.
Yeah.
Because you could get us over the hump in a way that James Harden has never been able to anywhere else in his career. I don't know what LeBron thinks of Donovan Mitchell. Like, the whole thing here is he has earned the right to do exactly what he wants to do, to play with the people he wants to play with, and he doesn't have to make a decision based on salary. He doesn't have to make a decision based on even, like, the kind of home he can have whatever he wants. And if he doesn't want to spend time, guess what's going to happen? He can be like, dude, this road trip, I don't want to go on this one, coach. I mean, he won't do that because he's LeBron, but he could do that. It's the Aaron Donald thing with the Rams, right? Aaron Donald is in conversations with the Rams right now, figuring out what the bare minimum is that he can do that puts them over the hump as a Super Bowl contender. They have earned that right. They're in this incredibly rarefied air, as like the upper 1% of the upper 1%, to just say, I don't want to go on this road trip. I'm not going to be there, okay? I'm going to fly home. I'm going to be incognito watching Bronny play some NBA basketball. He won't get any minutes now that I'm not on the roster, but like, I'm so fascinated what the courtship process looks like, because it has to be, I think, player driven. I think it's got to be the guys that are on the team. Of course, ownership's going to say whatever they're supposed to say. Coaches are going to say whatever they're supposed to say. But it's got to be like Steph Curry being like, dude, do you want to play with me or not? We had a great time in USA basketball all these years. Let's get one more title together before we're both too old to do this again. If you're Donovan Mitchell, you're like, bro, please, big brother, please. You could be the thing that pushes us that extra 5% that I need to beat New York, to beat Philadelphia, to beat Miami, to beat whoever in the East, to beat Boston, so that I can have a title as part of my legacy. And I will give you credit in every conversation I have for the rest of my life. If I'm James Harden, I'm like, just like, dude, come on. If I'm like a random school teacher in Cleveland, I'm having every child in my classroom write letters to LeBron James every day. Please finish your career here.
Please come home.
Come full circle. Please come home. Right? He has an opportunity to write the ending of his own book in one of the more fascinating ways that we've seen.
You know what should happen as far as the angle that you just described, the school teacher angle? I'm gonna have my cute kids write cute letters, draw cute pictures, stick figures of them next to LeBron James in the Cavs picture. That's going to melt his heart, and he's going to come home. The teachers at his I Promise school that he opened, that's in Akron, right?
I think it is.
They should be like, you built this wonderful place for us. You're giving us an incredible educational opportunity that we might not have had otherwise. Come finish the story here where it all started. Finish your promise from the kids of the I Promise school that you built in Akron, Ohio. That's the pitch right there.
I know LeBron has a lot of haters. I hate LeBron's cringiness. I don't hate anything else about LeBron. I have a deep admiration for his consistency, for his avoidance of scandal, for the fact that he has risen to the occasion from being on an SI cover when he was 16 years old. Like, no athlete has had the pressure that he's had and handled it as well. I think he handles the GOAT debate very well most of the time. Like, LeBron is as impressive an athlete as we're going to get in my lifetime. More impressive than pretty much everybody else.
For a guy with no college education to be as well-spoken and as much of a voice of leadership and goodwill as he's been and off the court as well as on the court, like you can't have anything but admiration for that.
A lot of people dislike him because of his politics or what they perceive to be his politics. Don't do that. don't judge that, because if you do, you're gonna find out that you actually don't like a lot of people because people's politics almost never align with yours perfectly. So leave it out, in my opinion. But LeBron James finishing off in Cleveland where he started, to me, feels like a poetic ending to an unbelievable career. I don't think I would get that same feeling. Well, I know I wouldn't get that same feeling anywhere else. If he goes back to Miami, there's some of that.
Yeah.
But the good turn, the positive turn, the happy part of this of LeBron James's story is that after he did these, for lack of a better term, selfish pursuit of a championship with Miami, he returned to Cleveland and he gave back and he gave them a championship. And even though I hated his whole very obviously rehearsed, Cleveland, this is for you, like, he practiced that in the mirror too many times and it fell flat when he actually did it. But the fact of the matter is, he delivered a championship to a championship-less city in a way that, like, I mean, you couldn't script it better for Hollywood. He's a hometown boy leading the team to a championship. It's really, really incredible. So to go back there and to finish, and maybe they win something big, maybe they don't. But either way, the last time you put on an NBA uniform, you do it for the team that gave you your first NBA uniform. That's pretty cool. Minnesota can't do that for you. Golden State, even though Steph's one of your best buddies, can't do that for you. Miami, where you have a lot of history and wonder. You have a home in every one of these places if you want. But Cleveland is the only one that's actually home. Other than that, I don't really care.
Yeah. See, I would like him to go to Miami first, but that's just because I've always had a lot of admiration for Dwayne Wade, Pat Riley. I've always liked the Heat. Not been my favorite team, but liked the Heat. Liked his years in Miami. Would love for them to be there to be a LeBronis championship. You see what I did there?
Uh-huh.
LeBron and Giannis teaming up would be awesome. But if I take that out of it, take that inherent bias for me out of the equation, Cleveland's the best story. It absolutely is. So
Speaking of Dwayne
I wouldn't
Wade,
hate Cleveland.
D-Wade, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, get him to Utah.
Get him to the Jazz. Get LeBron to the Utah Jazz. Now, I've said this on the air before. He's a little too old for it now, but it would have been cool, like instead of going to the Lakers, if he was just like, give me the list of NBA teams that have never won a championship, are furthest away from winning a championship, and picked one of those.
Yeah.
It would have been awesome. That changes your place in the GOAT debate also.
It absolutely does. And in this case, there's only one team out of the 6 or whatever that have been thrown out there as possible destinations. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves. Just by the way.
If you give that city their first ever championship, they're going to love you forever.
Yeah.
Cleveland already does. Miami already does. Golden State never will. Who knows? All right. One last break. We're going to give away a preview 4-pack to The End of Oak Street, which is coming out August 14th. The sneak preview is going to be August 10th. A trivia question for you next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, a 4-pack of sneak preview tickets to The End of Oak Street starring Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor. Screening will be on August 10th. The movie comes out on August 14th. There are rumors out there that The End of Oak Street is actually part of the very odd and unexpected Cloverfield franchise. If you're familiar with the Cloverfield monster movie and then Cloverfield Lane that had an alien invasion component, spoiler alert, it's like 10 years old now.
I think I only saw the first one. That's the shaky camera one that
Yes.
they didn't actually show any kind of monster. It just was like a...
They ended up showing the
Did
monster,
they end up
but
showing
it's like
it?
found footage,
It's
basically.
a long time ago
Yeah.
that I saw it.
It's like one of those weird found footage movies. So, The End of Oak Street is reportedly part of this world, but they haven't confirmed it or denied it. We just finished a fantastic, phenomenal, incredible World Cup tournament. Spain, of course, champions, 1-0 over Argentina. Who is, as of today, the all-time World Cup goal-scoring leader? Changed a couple of times during this tournament. 877-353-0700. Who holds who holds the record for most goals scored in the World Cup? 877-353-0700. Not this year's World Cup, but all World Cups combined. What individual player has scored the most goals in World Cup play? 877-353-0700. Crosstalk brought to you by our friends at Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100 for $2,500 off 10 windows or more. The Monster Energy
Aloha, Sean.
Drive with Spence Checketts is
Aloha.
coming up next.
What's going on with the Hawaiian shirt? Outside of it being phenomenally good looking, and you're talking to a fan of Hawaiian shirts over here. That's a good one.
It's a great shirt. This is my late grandfather, Delmer Scales. This is his favorite shirt that is now mine.
Huh.
And I just felt like wearing it today.
It's a hand-me-down.
Yeah.
And you know what I like? You can see the tat a little bit.
A little bit.
So it's kind of like, that guy's both Hawaiian and mysterious.
Yes.
I like it.
Yes. How was your weekend?
Good weekend. I thought it was a phenomenal tournament that deserved a little bit of a better finale. I was disappointed. That's how Argentina plays. And look, credit Spain, but like diving, trying to draw fouls, and then hope for one messy moment. That's who they are. It's how they won the World Cup a year ago. But I would imagine, last cycle, I would imagine there were a lot of people that were like, okay, all right, fine, stop talking about the World Cup. I'll watch the finale. And then they were walking away like, wait, really? Like, that's the deal? I mean, it was intriguing at the end, but like the flow up until the end, I thought was pretty disappointing.
It was a crazy dominant defensive performance for Spain, which is certainly not the most visually appealing soccer we saw throughout the tournament.
Yeah.
But them's the breaks. If you're going to love the sport, you got to love it in all of its forms. If you're going to love the tournament, you got to love at least how it ends, and you get the resolution that you get. So congrats to Spain. Viva España.
Worthy champs. 1 goal allowed. I think I read this morning 10 shots allowed all tournament.
That's crazy.
The Argentinian keeper made 11 saves on
yesterday,
and the Spanish keeper made 10 saves all tournament.
That's
it's pretty wild to consider, but I mean, look.
And he got the award he got the Gold Glove for best keeper in the tournament. Every other one is just like, he didn't have to do anything.
Yeah. But for all the hand-wringing about, people are going to come here and they're going to see how fractured we are, and it's going to be, I thought it was an unbelievable display of just who we are to the world. I thought everybody handled it well. Even the things that were a little bit controversial, the Balogun red card, it didn't diminish what was an unbelievable tournament. And I always forget, like, it goes away. And because it's every 4 years, you know, and you're like, oh, yeah, it's the World Cup this summer. And then it comes around and you're just like, this is awesome.
It is awesome.
So many really cool things about it. And as I always say, I know soccer's not for everybody. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be for you. That's fine. But I don't think you have to be a soccer fan to appreciate what that tournament actually is.
Well, this one definitely made me a soccer fan in a way that I have never been in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I credit hockey also for doing some of that, because I've watched more hockey in the last 2 years than I have in most years of my life. And there are some similarities to the way that, you know, the ball's serviced in, to the front of the goal, the same way in hockey and things like that. So I liked it. I liked all of the social media, all of the feel good, all of the I liked the I mean, we didn't get to talk about it on the show. Argentina is a bunch of sore sports. They started a fight with Spain.
Mm-hmm.
That's like starting a fight at the Olympics. It feels like undignified to do at a World Cup final. But Argentina being crybabies about it and gives you more to talk about. I'm on board. And Spence, I got James to commit to this. 4 years from now, Spain, Morocco, Portugal hosting the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to put it in the budget here at ESPN 700, and we're going.
Is there a bus route to Spain?
Here's the thing.
Okay.
What we have to do is get on an illegal barge making its return to Morocco.
Okay.
And then we will technically be there for the World Cup.
Is this like
going to be like a 3-month scary journey across the Atlantic?
Is this like the Conor McGregor speak it into existence manifesting that all the kids do these days?
Hey, it works. It works for him.
Didn't he just rip up his knee?
It works for him the first time around.
It worked for him when he was an elite fighter. Yes. This is the problem with all these manifestation morons. Everyone manifests after they've done the thing. Like, no, you don't know what I did during my process. Yeah, I know what you did. You worked hard, you prepared, and you won some fights. It doesn't mean you have access to Saturn when the rest of us don't know what's going on. Calm down. So annoying.
I mean, I agree with you mostly, but he really did speak some things into existence that were like nearly impossible.
Winning fights?
The way that he would predict the specific manner in which he was going to do it, and then he would go do it, it was just like, come on, what? Really? You're able?
We never talk about the guys that are like, I manifested this outcome, and then they get their heads kicked in.
No,
it's like
obviously not. Obviously, those guys you forget about.
Do you remember do you remember Chris Childs? He was a point guard for the Knicks back in the day.
Sure.
Do you?
No.
I mean, he was a decent player. Jeff Van Gundy finally told him to stop guaranteeing wins. Because he would talk to the media before the game. He's like, guarantee we're going to beat the Bulls tonight. They lose by like 40. Van Gundy's like, you need to shut up. Stop with your guarantees. We always give the people credit who manifest the things after they win. And then like, no, I have the magic. You should subscribe to my ebook. It's $14.99 a week. By the way, should Mark Harlan take the Michigan job?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? When I saw the Ward Manual news, I was like, dude, what if they hire Mark? If you're Witt, it's like,
that won't happen.
I know it won't, but it would just be hilarious if it did.
Kyle Whittingham gets a phone call from whoever Michigan's president is. It's like, hey.
I mean, technically, the football coach doesn't have a say.
And it feels so good.
Can you imagine if that scenario actually went down?
I don't think Mark wants that any more than Kyle does.
I would imagine Mark would talk to Michigan about their open AD job.
I don't think he wants to be reunited with Kyle any more than Kyle wants to be reunited with Mark.
I think Mark would take great delight in taking that job, and suddenly, yeah, we're looking for a new football coach.
It's an angle I did not even begin to think about when I saw that Ward Manual.
Maybe it says something about the way I think. The first thing I thought when I saw the Ward Manual news, I'm like, Mark needs to get that job.
How could this upset people that I know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely.
All right.
Interesting news, though. Probably inevitable after that investigation all went down.
Yeah. He's getting to go out on his own terms, which feels like kind of a compromise with like, hey, you've had a lot of success. You've overseen a lot of success here. Any other school in any other era, we would probably get rid of you now.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the weird thing about the investigation, as far as what I was reading this morning, is it actually revealed a lot of really good things about him. Like, he's a good leader, and our football team won a national championship like 5 years ago, whatever. Basketball won a national championship last year.
Yeah.
It's got to be difficult, though, because most of the things that happened that led to this situation were really out of his control. It's not like he was directly involved, at least from what I read.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and we've talked about this so many times, where you don't have an excuse to not know about it. Ignorance is not acceptable. And then if you did have knowledge of it and you didn't act, also not acceptable.
Yeah.
So it's like, am I supposed to respond to every whisper or rumor that's happening in my athletic department? Some people say No, obviously not. You've got bigger fish to fry. Some people say, yes, that's your job. You have to know and make sure that these things don't snowball and get out of control. And, coaches have to deal with it all the time. I didn't know that kid was out partying every Saturday night. Why didn't you know? It's your job to know. So,
yeah,
tough.
I mean, you know what it's like having been in a college locker room. I mean, the buck does stop with a coach. And sometimes there's so many things that happen the coach can't escape. But like the Gary Croton stuff down at BYU, when all of that stuff came out, he wasn't going to survive that. But there were some things that happened with youth players when Witt was the coach, and he used to talk about it with a lot of candor. Like, yeah, it is on me to know this, but that's why you have to have great quality control coaches. You have to have great assistant coaches. You have to have an entire program that at least paints accountability and is very forthcoming about what we expect. And then you just have to hope that the young men behave themselves, which is a hard thing to do with teenagers.
There's going to be some coach someday who writes a book about and like actually tells the truth about how, hey, I knew that the position coach was going to find out first. I knew the GA was going to find out first.
Yeah.
And I told them if it's a money thing, a drinking thing, a whatever thing, tell me, let me know right now. And if it's a, SA thing, if it's a domestic violence thing, if it's a whatever thing, I don't want to know. There's going to be some coach who tells the real truth about being selective on what kind of knowledge they have. If it's a recruiting violation, I don't want to hear about it. I need plausible deniability. You better figure it out. There's definitely that level of organizational accountability in some of these cases, and we just don't know in each program with each coach and each staff and each athletic department by extension how it is.
Well, and also how many things that people are willing to turn a blind eye to simply if you're winning games.
100%.
Like the Patriot way. We heard that your tight end's a serial killer. Calm down with the Patriot way, fella. But you're winning Super Bowls. Urban, Florida, right?
I had such a hard time, and I've talked about it too much on the air, but like there were 10 years where we were kind of immediately post his exit from Utah, and all this stuff was happening at Florida, and even Ohio State had some issues. And I was trying to explain to people how impossible that would have been at Utah.
Yeah.
To be that player in that position at Utah would have been impossible. Urban changed. Urban was either told by people more powerful than him, if we're winning games, you will deal with this. He was a dictator. He was a disciplinarian when he was at the University of Utah. I have plenty of anecdotal stories about him ruining guys because he didn't like one undisciplined action from that guy.
Yeah.
And then he went to Florida.
Yeah.
And they had like 12 convicts on the team.
At all times. I mean, it's probably just SEC Media Days is going on right now. And I was watching this morning because Greg Sankey spoke. And look, I know people around here hate it when you say it's different down there, but it just is. And just watching the way Brett Yormark's introductory press conference during Big 12 Media Days, it was like P.T. Barnum. It was this weird combination of like, are you a preacher? Are you running for office? What are we doing here? And Greg Sankey.
Presented by Monster Energy.
Indeed. Shout out. Sugar-free, the white one. Greg Sankey presents himself as just like this statesman. He's at a podium. Everything is normal. The questions aren't weird. And then there's the money dynamic as well. When that much money is involved, like Lane Kiffin is going to speak on Thursday, I think. And they were just talking about the dynamic of, LSU hasn't been to a CFP in 7 years. And, look, also Urban went from the Mountain West, right? SEC. He didn't go from the Pac-12 or the Big 2. He made, I don't know what he was making at Utah, what a Mountain West Conference coaches make. Do you think he was making $1 million a year?
I think he was coming up on $1 million a year.
And jumps into 6 or 7?
It was like 4.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, okay. So
but this was early 2000.
Yeah, 4 or 5 times your salary, where the stakes are so high that if you are able to deliver a winning product, very powerful, rich people will look the other way at bad behavior because of how much that means to the state, how much it means to everybody, everybody's bottom line. The college football is such big business, and that's why these coaches can get away with so much when they're in that ecosystem if they deliver a winner.
Yeah, it's Very fascinating. I want to make one observation before we turn it over to the drive, okay? We like to tease. We make fun of Monster Energy Big 12 football season. But when we went down to media days, Spence Checketts was not a Monster Energy drinker.
I had my first one at Big 12 Media Days.
And now Spence Checketts comes into the studio. The last 3 times I've seen him, he's got a Monster Energy drink. So for Monster, it's worth that $20 million they spent.
Blaming this on Porter because he's my producer, and that's always the fallback for a host. Because the first one I tried, I didn't like. And he's like, you got to get the white one with no sugar. And he was right. So the days that I run out of time and can't get my cold brew, because I'm like a 1 cold brew guy, and that's about it, I'm enjoying a little white Monster these days. It's a dangerous habit because the other thing is they are entirely effective until they're not.
Well,
I feel great right now. Talk to me about 5 or 6 tonight.
it feels like you're slumming it a little bit.
Yeah.
This is not like a Connecticut type drink.
Yeah, don't. Look, I do have a rep, okay?
Okay.
So here's the deal. When I roll in my seersucker outfit, I will not have a Monster. I'll have like a Perrier or something.
Okay, perfect. Stay tuned for the drive. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll do it again tomorrow on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.